We'll reconvene from closed meeting. It is 6:30 p.m. Sorry for coming out late, but we had some business to take care of. And so we will go to item 4, board protocol, that will be read by me. It is 6:30 p.m. The Board of Trustees is now convened. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present. Every student's success is our #1 priority. As the Porte ISD Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, adopt policy, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and communicate the district's vision and success to the community. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. School board meetings are open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. Audience participation is limited to the patron presentation portion of the meeting. Board members may not respond to the public comment section. These proceedings may be recorded, and I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking. Thank you for taking time this evening to join us and for your interest in LaPorte Independent School District. At this time, we will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States and Texas flags. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Now we'll have the invocation be given by Mr. Jeff Martin, Board Trustee.
Father God, we thank you first and foremost for this beautiful day, this chance to come together and work for the betterment of our town, our district, our teachers, our children. We thank you, Father, for each man and woman that's present here tonight. We ask that you give them wisdom, discernment, and that you continue to watch over and bless and protect each and every one of them, their families. And just bless this meeting, our time together, that we work for the betterment again of this district, Father God. And these things we ask in your name.
Amen. Okay. We'll go to item 5, public comments. The board will now hear those who wish to make comments and who have completed and returned the public comment participation request. This section will be conducted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act and board policy. Complaints and concerns for which other resolution channels are provided shall be directed through those channels. Ms. Thompson, were there any?
Nope, none this evening.
Okay, there are no comments. Okay, so we'll move to item 6, public hearing to discuss budget and proposed tax rate for fiscal year 2021-2022. And we'll start with A, presentation of budget and proposed tax rate for fiscal year 2021-2022.
You don't have your budget books? Yes, ma'am.
So on page 4 is the executive summary. We talked about all this in our workshop a couple weeks ago. Nothing has really changed in here. What I included in the budget as far as the raises are concerned is included in here, but I know you all want to have discussion about that, so we'll discuss that. Our tax rate projection is $1.25,691, and that a little over a penny less than it was last year. Our tax base for INS purposes is $12 billion. Now this is preliminary. Our certified values will come at the end of July. Is $12,750,114,843. And our M&O value after the 313s are taken out is $11,792,543. Our projected enrollment is 6,788 with a projected average daily attendance of 66,305 and an average weighted daily attendance projected of 8,265. We went over the TRS increases last time, staffing increases, and Our recapture payment is estimated to be $50 million, sorry. Almost $50.5 million.
You were just trying to make us feel better
I
for
know.
just a second, weren't you?
I could only be hopeful.
I know.
$50 million is a lot of money to be sitting.
Yes,
back in
ma'am.
the state. Okay. On page 10 is the adoption summary. So this just shows the three funds, a summary of the three funds that you're required to adopt, which is the general fund, the debt service fund, and the food service fund. The total expenditures of the general fund are estimated to be $132,622,598, of which $50,419,000 is recaptured. Our debt service expenditures are estimated to be $27,531,899, and our food service expenditures are estimated to be $4,061,097. And we will be feeding free again this year based on TDA and the federal government. That's really all I have new, unless you want me to go into more detail. I did give you some scenarios on raises. If you want to talk about that, I will answer any questions you have or cover more information.
Okay, I want to ask a question back to page 4.
Sure.
Considering that our recapture payment is going up, and we know that we're not going to be able to continue to use those disaster pennies forever, we know we will be this year, why, gosh, my email's going to blow up after this, but why would we go down a cent on our tax rate considering those two things are upon us?
Okay, because we have two components to our tax. We have maintenance and operation, and we have
Right.
debt service. Our debt service rate is what's going down because our base went up. And when your base goes up, you don't need as much tax cents, pennies, to collect what you need to cover your debt payment. So our M&O is not changing.
Right.
Our INS is
Okay, so the INS
they're
last
not-
year was at 22.7?
23%.
So now it's going to 21.7.
21.7.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Rhonda.
Can I start the discussion about the increases? Mr.
Sure, I'm at your
President?
service.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to ask the board to respectfully, please try to hear me. First of all, Rhonda, correct me if I'm wrong. We've spoken with you that I was able to count on my hand. You've spoken to us in the last month or so 4 times. We've talked about money. Several people have asked, what are we going to be able to do about raises? We've talked about a few scenarios, and the scenarios we discussed, you said no problem, fine, it's up to y'all. And then you went back and made a few more recommendations. Okay. I know that by the way the book was printed, I know that what I wanted to do was not considered, and I'm going to ask the board to reconsider that, because something that is very, very important to me that has been overlooked as far back as I can go, and that's real far, is that our teachers are not rewarded for their service and tenure. Everybody knows about the teacher minimum schedule, all of that. So the points that I want to make to ask you all to please consider is that, first of all, Rhonda, I'm going to start out by saying, Rhonda is a highly respected CFO in the state of Texas, probably in the top 3, I would guess. And we are very fortunate to have her. She guards our money, and she would not tell us anything. If she had an inkling that anything that she put on this paper was not going to work, she wouldn't have put it on the paper. So therefore, we've also had an interesting discussion off and on with the board. And maybe this remark was made in passing, but a lot of talk about marketing, getting our students back. We want to do whatever we have to, even to the point where someone said, if we have to hire someone to go door to door or hire a person to be that point person, okay? What better marketing tool would it be to have our teachers receive 4% of their salary and not the midpoint as their salary increase. There couldn't be a better marketing tool than that. And we have the money. So the other formulas are all good, but they're also, I am telling you, I sat in that chair for 20 years. When they see all these different formulas for this and this and this, that payroll office and personnel office is going to blow up with, what the heck, what does this mean? What am I getting? Well, I mean, there's no reason to confuse people. We have teachers, we have educators, and they're darn good because we make sure that we get the best. And they have never been acknowledged for tenure and service. And we've talked about that so many times. The best thing we could possibly do, the other thing I wanted to say was, you will say this doesn't matter, but it does matter. In corporate America, in today's world, tenure is not recognized. It's not even really cared about. And if you know anything about corporate America, you know that now. If you stay in a job 3 or 4 years, big whoop, you move on to the next one. But in education, we have loyal teachers that have stayed. They've stayed with us during the good times, the bad times. And when you get a 20-year and over, or even a 10 or 15-year teacher that comes in here and does the very best job they can, and then they get a raise that doesn't even amount to 3 months' worth of groceries, and we have an opportunity to be cutting edge and be different than everybody else. There's not any, I've tried to find out. I can't find another district that would consider doing it this way because the TASB schedule is the Allah of all schedules. But if we would consider giving our teachers, we can't read the future, except for we do know that we have money. And Rhonda says we can do this. To give our teachers 4% of their individual salary as an increase instead of the midpoint, and it's broken down, we've got it broken down. It speaks to them that we want them to stay and we do care about them. And I'm just asking you all to please, please consider that when you want to make your vote on what you're going to do for the teachers.
Okay, on these options that she put inside of here, which one of those is your suggestion?
It would be the, it's that third from the left, the one that says 4% teacher. Yes.
And 4% midpoint.
That gives all the teachers 4% of their salary, and everybody else gets 4% of the midpoint.
Regardless of their tenure?
Right. Because if you studied that compensation book at all, the midpoint, it's negligible in the big picture as far as money goes.
Well, and for teachers, just for clarification, the teachers don't get a midpoint. There's not a midpoint for teachers. Teachers get the average salary.
Right.
Average teacher salary. So we take all the teachers in the district and calculate the average of that, and that's considered their midpoint.
What I thought was interesting on your sheet that you gave us to ponder over here, I guess I would call that word, the 3% of the average teacher salary was 1.18365. 3% of the teacher's actual salary, 1.180735. So it didn't really change that much from the average salary or the actual salary.
Which makes sense because we're using actual salaries. So your average, 3% of your average would be basically the same as 3% of each individual salary.
So
And the math
the
is
higher
very
up you
close.
go, the more you would get, although,
Right, because it's an average.
yeah.
So the deal is that people with longer tenure that are above that average are getting less than the percentage of their salary. It's kind of like how the midpoints work too.
Right.
Anybody that's less than midpoint gets more than 4% of their salary or 3% or 2%. Anybody above that midpoint gets less.
Right, and that's what we discussed at the
So
our
I
workshop,
think
that's what
looking
we were
at
talking about.
teachers, you're going like, okay, we're rewarding the lower end of the scale versus the upper end by picking an average.
And to clarify, we have not swayed away from looking at making sure we award services as far as the amount of length of time in the profession. That's what we were kind of looking at as far as making sure that people that have been working in the profession are getting a just raise compared to someone just entering the profession.
So based on Kathy's scenario,
Yeah.
4% of the starting teacher salary of 57.2 would be less than 4% of somebody that's been here a long time making like maybe 70,000. So that's true, giving them all the same percent based on their salary. It's also true if you do variable percentages, like, you know, some of the other examples you start. The people at the lower end will get less than 4% of their salary, so they're kind of getting less for their service as well, and the teachers at the higher end are getting more. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I looked around at our neighbors. I looked at Deer Park, Pasadena, Goose Creek, Clear Creek, and then I threw in Humboldt just because I have connection there, Klein, and Cy-Fair. These were just, I didn't go to Houston and do a bunch of them, but, you know, we're very competitive with our starting teacher salary. And I think we always have been over just on my tenure on the board. I mean, Deer Park's starting teacher salary last year was $55,500. We're above that. Pasadena was $57,619. Goose Creek was $58,000, which is what our proposal is going to. Clear Creek was $56,308. So I think we're competitive there. I think where sometimes we miss the boat is that I think the board in past years has tried very hard to say all is all, and we want it to affect everybody, and we want, you know, we don't care if what your job is, what your role is. Without your role, we can't have a school district, and so we try to make sure that those percentages are there. Now, then you throw in House Bill 5, House Bill 3,
House Bill 3.
Anyway, a couple of years ago, and it forced us to start thinking more in departments. Teachers, librarians, and nurses, this percent. Admin, this percent, whatever. So,
Are you talking about the year, are you talking about House Bill 3, like the 0 to 5 years?
No, House Bill 3, we had to differentiate. We had to give more to the teachers.
Right,
We had to
right,
give any increase we got to the teachers, as well as some differentiation in years. And we
Because-
did that. That was the first time we'd done that in my tenure here, but we
One
did
of
do
the
that.
criticisms I always hear from fellow educators is your guy's starting salary, you make this great amount, and then as you go with years of experience, it is not that
It
much
doesn't catch
of a
up,
jump.
yes.
It's, you know.
Right.
So
That's what we talked about.
the range is
Yeah.
not very, very high, you
Right,
know, and
yeah.
so kind of, I think one of the things looking at these formulas was trying to get some of that range that as you're working the years, you're getting a bigger step up, getting rewarded for, you know, years of experience, so.
So, never mind, go ahead.
I'm a new guy, I probably got a lot of dumb questions, but I was reading through this, which took me a while. But, so can you, I guess, explain to me on I'm looking through specifically with this, the longevity stipends for the athletic department. So it looks like, and I agree with Kathy, like I would love to reward longevity. And in her scenario, if it's based on just their actual salary, it would do that. I'm for that. But it looks to me that you guys are already like, in terms of coaching athletics, they get rewarded for anything over 10 years, right? They get basically a stipend, $1,500, and 20 years plus, it's like $2,000. My question is, how long has that been in place, and have we ever done that for non-athletic related positions?
It hasn't been in place that long, maybe 3 or 4 years. Yeah, it hasn't been in place that long. I can look back and find out exactly, but it's only been a few years, and not to my knowledge.
Was that an
Have we done
option?
it for
I mean, in terms
other-
of, so we do a baseline salary increase across the board for everybody, and then you would do it. I mean, why? I get my next question would be why?
Of
are
course,
we
it's
doing
an
it for-
option. Any of that kind of stuff is an option.
Why? What was the rationale? I guess if you can speak to it, why we did it for athletics, but not for like other teachers in the district that have been here for 20 years.
You're referring to the ones that have stipends?
Yeah.
Just on, yeah, just, I mean,
It
it's a
had
pretty
to
good
do with
stipend.
coaches and retaining coaches, and I really don't know the background on it. Do you know anything to add to that? Right.
Good evening, y'all. Yes, it is about retaining coaches. We were having some concerns as far as just making sure that coaches who were quality, who were doing a great job for us, and being able to just retain them in their positions. And, you know, female coaches, male coaches, all of them, and just making sure we could do the best by them, and just looking at what other districts were kind of doing and trying to be competitive with that. And we do have longstanding coaches here, and we wanted to honor that.
So I'm all for that.
Is
That's
that
amazing.
common in other districts?
No, not that
Isn't
I'm
it
aware of, for
important to note-
specifically longevity of coaches at that stipend.
But isn't it important to note that their stipend for coaching is completely separate from their salary? They could walk in here tomorrow and say, I don't want to coach anymore. If we have a spot for them, then their contract would change. They go to a straight teacher salary. And, I mean, my point that I'm trying to make is that it's totally separate.
Their stipend has to do with the work that they do supplementally for their coaching duties. That is correct. And they do have dual assignment contracts here in this district. So like you said, that would have to be something that they would have to resign a dual assignment contract and accept a teaching contract. But to your point, the stipends are separate for that supplemental duty that they're performing. Yes, ma'am.
And are related just to coaching, so if they
Yes.
chose not to coach, it would go away.
Which I mean, I understand, I get that, that makes total sense. I'm all for these. I don't think coaches think I'm anti-stipend. I think that's a great thing. I know it'd be a lot more money because there's a lot more people that would be involved in this, but to me, I would like to also reward the teachers, the administrators that are here for 10, 15, 20 years or longer. I don't want to lose them any more than I want to lose a good coach. That's what I'm saying.
The only comment I have to say to that is sometimes you kind of have to weigh between years in the profession and years at LaPorte, because sometimes people new to LaPorte can bring value. So if you say, okay, well, if you've been at LaPorte 15 years, you get this, but if you've only been here 5 years, but you have 20 years of service, then that's sending a different message. Just to be aware, not to sway you either way. But so there's kind of value in both, and how do you determine what that is? And maybe a stipend's one way is, this is a LaPorte stipend that you're just based on your LaPorte years, and then this is what we do for salaries based on your total years of service. I don't know. It's totally up to you all. I'm just giving you things to think.
To me, I mean, it just encourages them to stay in district, right? So it's twofold. You encourage them to stay in LaPorte ISD, and you are rewarding them for staying in LaPorte ISD.
Right.
Correct.
Because that longevity stipend that you were discussing was about coaching
Right.
in LaPorte.
Right.
So, yeah.
So
So-
doing that as a stipend.
So I saw something in our mission statement that I really think we could change about being competitive amongst other districts. I think we could lead and make them be competitive with us. I would like to see that versus, as it is right now. The other thing is, if we're going to do a increase off current salary, I would like to see that for everybody, not just teachers, but for everybody. So if you're not over your midpoint, whichever one's greater. If you're at your midpoint, we do it off your salary. But we go for everybody, from custodial all the way up. Make it fair for everyone. Personally, and I'm all for that. Also, I'd like to see us look at increasing our amount that we pay towards insurance. That's not been raised in 20-plus years.
Yeah, Deanne's raised it last board meeting, so
Yeah, you did, and I looked at it.
Yeah, and it hasn't been raised
Going-
in a long time, you are
Yeah,
correct.
yeah. It's
So
over
in
20
this
years.
book, did you go with a new number, or was that
I did not, but it's
20, what we?
293,000 or something like that.
A
It's
year?
a year. And so just more information on that. We talked about 814, which is over half of our employees. We have about 1,200 employees take insurance. So that doesn't touch everybody. So sometimes that's not a great recruiting tool, but it could be a great retaining tool, if that makes sense.
Yeah, if you come in here single and you don't have a family yet, it's cheap.
Right. A lot of our
But-
beginning teachers are not that concerned about insurance. They're
Right.
more concerned about the money in their pocket at the end of the day.
Right.
Mhm.
But you have a couple kids and it's expensive,
Right.
very expensive.
Since we're kind of touching on a little bit of the compensation plan because it affects the budget, one of the things that I like to see is showing in the compensation plan a minimum $18.91. I've seen other districts start marketing the starting pay of bus drivers at $20. Given our heavy reliance on bus drivers and the amount of students that we have that are bus riders, I like to see it go up to $20, maybe more, to go with Chris is about leading, not just, keeping up with the Joneses. I want to lead and go higher than $20 if we can on that with the starting salary and how to move that. And I have some more questions as well on the compensation plan, but I don't know if it's the right time to do it now or with the budget or wait until we get to that item.
I think we should wait till we get.
It's up to Dr.
Yeah.
Jackson.
We can wait on that, okay.
Yeah, you can pull it and we can have that discussion back when we get to it.
Well, let me pull this one up. Also, before, I'm sorry to interrupt, but let me just throw in here too, Ms. Wheeler had said, I wanted to express my thoughts on raises for tenured teachers for 4% raise. We have always put our tenured teachers in with all the others. I've heard so many complaints. We never recognize them for their service and dedication to our district. Now that we can do this without a big financial problem, we need to do this. If we want to keep them and draw quality teachers and students to our district, this should be a definite vote in favor of their 4% raise and keep them with us. I've watched so many work beyond their appreciation for many years. Now is the time to honor their excessive time served in our district. Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry.
One thing, I know we have talked a lot over this year about mental health and ESSER funds helping with counseling for mental health. Are we adding any counselors that maybe ESSER funds could help us pay for, that could be on the outside of our budget? Here she comes. Our,
You're in my area.
yeah, I just think our counselors are going to need some help, whether that means adding people, adding additional services, like we talked about our help with that Clear Hope. I can't even think of the name.
Clear Hope?
Yes,
And
Clear
Teach Up.
Hope.
Mhm.
Yes. So anyway, I want to make sure that they're being compensated because I think they're fixing to be overwhelmed if they're not already.
We did add a district-wide mental health counselor that's going to be primarily focused on our elementary schools, so that our other mental health crisis counselors aren't pulled down to the 7 elementary schools.
So that one is going to float between those 7?
When there's a crisis, or when there needs to be a threat assessment or suicide assessment, homicidal assessment, they'll do those assessments for our elementaries, which helps out our counselors.
And will that be covered with the ESSER funds?
I believe it is. Title I.
Title I.
Sorry, Title.
Okay. Because I know ESSER funds talks a lot about showing. I've been reading on this. Not real interesting reading, by the way. But a lot of it talks about, we're going to have to show what we've spent on mental health to be able to get those funds back to us. But you're saying that one's going to be covered with Title I.
Well, but because we used ESSER for other things, it made way for us to be able to use the title. I don't think we're going to jeopardize losing additional ESSER funds in the future if there were to be more, or that we're in violation of anything because we didn't use it. They want to make certain that the need is being met. We're meeting it through another federal fund.
Okay.
And learning loss as well is part of ESSER.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, and we are
That's a big
doing,
component.
the staff we're hiring through our ESSER funds are 100% on learning loss.
We have also allocated ESSER funds for Clear Hope and Teach Up.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I knew you said something about that at the last meeting, and I didn't make a note. Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
Well, I kind of don't know where we are right now, except for I think
We're all over
it's
the place.
I think it's pretty clear. We're not necessarily all over the place, because I think it's really clear that we want to do the very most that we can. This is going to be the year to do it. We don't know what's going to happen after this, but, we already know from everything you've told us that we can do something better than we've done before. And I just think this is the year to do it. When bread costs dadgum $3 a loaf, I mean, come on, everything else is relative and it's going up. And sometimes those negligible increases hurt you tax-wise worse than helping you.
Yes.
I like the idea of the 4% if it's based on their actual salary, but I don't think it should be only the teachers. I know that's going to cost more money. I'm not trying to put us in a bad spot. But you're not rewarding if your admins, counselors, whoever else, principals, if for tenure, if theirs is based off the midpoint.
And I'm absolutely for that, and I don't turn green. And I would ask you, because I know that you probably have something in your head, but it would be nice if maybe she could put it together and let us see it in black and white. Could we do that?
Well, 1% of salary for everybody, of the salary, not the midpoint, is $669,000. So if you wanted to do 4% for everybody, it would be 4 times that, roughly.
2.4 million.
Yeah. Well, almost 700, so it'd be a
2.8.
little bit more than that. Yeah. I was going to say, it would be more than the 2.7 on the midpoint, but it shouldn't be a lot more because most of our people are less than 10 years of service. For the majority, as you have all those numbers before you do. So,
Now,
anyway, that's what
Are we still on that policy where you have to be with us for a full year to get the benefits?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and we actually go back and count the 90 days, which is a TRS year, and we count them on each job class because everybody has different end dates, and make sure that they have that before we award the raises. So you can't come in May and get it.
Yeah.
I still feel like there needs to be a differentiation for years of service. My thinking is 3%, and I'm with Chris on the no matter what your job is, 3% if you're 0 to 10, and 3.5% if you're 11 to 20, and 4% if you're over 20. That's my feeling.
I was right there with you, Deanne, on that.
That's where I'm at.
Until you take out, at least, please correct me if I'm wrong, because it's a little slow. But if you take it out, if you're not basing on the midpoint, you are rewarding it for years of service, right? Because pretty much every year,
good about it.
they get somewhat of a, it could be marginal, but there's always some sort of a raise. And so if you've been here 8 years, what is the midpoint? Is that 10 years?
Generally, yes. Our scale is 0 to 20 and midpoint's 10.
So you
But rule of
technically
thumb.
would get, you are recognizing that. If it's just it's a percentage based on their actual years of service, they are being rewarded for that. Does it make sense?
But I
So
guess,
you're not-
I don't know, which one creates a bigger
and
gap?
that's-
I mean, a different, because to me, it seems like the going from 3, 3.5, 4 creates a little bit more of a
Yeah.
gap
Yes,
as
that is
opposed to
correct.
just doing 4% because it is incremental, but you're also, that incremental is not as much either. So even though you're doing 4% across the board, it's still, it is a differentiation, but the gap is not as
Which
spread
there's
out.
going to be because, I mean, Jeff's exactly right. It's going to be, if we do it that way, it gives them a little bit more, not even a whole lot more, but it gives them a little bit more because you're basing it on their salary. And if we could do it for everybody, that would be a dream and fantastic. I mean, we talked about being a leader, yeah.
Well, this could be the first year of that. And we'll just look at it doing it next year and the year after that. And you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And if it's not 4% next year, if it's just 3%, because that's all we can do, then it's still 3% of your salary, not 3% of midpoint for everything.
and just start getting that differentiation and start moving.
Is it sustainable?
But that's the other thing.
Is it sustainable? Is it sustainable to give 4% every year? Probably not.
No.
But is it sustainable if we do it this year and continue? Probably. I mean, you have people come and go, so you do get some savings through that, so.
Right, the percentage isn't sustainable, but doing it off of your salary versus doing it off midpoint, I think that's sustainable versus,
There's
the
not a
other.
huge
And it's-
amount of difference
Right.
between
Yeah.
the two.
But it may be more attractive, as you get more tenure, your 3% is better than the 3% that somebody just started out.
And if you look at this and you notice, 1% of the salary is a little bit less than 1% of the midpoint because we have so many people below midpoint. And so we're actually would save money.
So in the far right-hand column, that is based on salary?
No.
Only
The
that
very,
middle
very
one,
far
that
right.
third-
Just the middle one.
Just that
Well,
middle
these are
third.
all based on salary. The only one that has midpoint in it is this one. if you're looking at that. But this one is based on salary, and this one is based on midpoint. So the first two columns, where I give you what a 1% would be, 1% of midpoint is a little higher than 1% of,
So the sixth column is what?
on salaries. They're all on
Salary.
salaries, because that's what you all sent me.
Yes, okay, just making sure.
So the last column is salary?
Uh-huh. The only one that has midpoint in it is the
middle one.
yeah, the middle, well, it's
First one in the middle.
1, 2,
the
3,
second one in the
yeah,
middle.
gotcha.
And I didn't like the differentiation between, I mean, I just, I don't know.
You don't like the differentiation on which one?
On, you know, a teacher with 10 years experience, that's a long time, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, that's what bothers me
You
about it.
said we set the bar too high or too low?
Well, I mean, I don't think a 10-year teacher is the same thing as a 0 teacher. I just don't. And honestly, an 11-year teacher is not the same as a 20-year teacher. So that's why I went with the 4% salary for the teachers and everybody, you know. I forget the midpoint for all others, because I just assume they got their salary too. But I just think if you gave everybody the same percentage, and
It's relative based
it's
on
going to be
the
relative because they're
salary
already in line somewhat for salaries, so they're going to get incrementally, not the exact same amounts, of course, but it's going to go up, and that's all we're trying to accomplish here.
Rhonda,
Because-
what would 3% of salary be? Will it be 669 times 3?
Right.
Gotcha, sorry.
But doing everybody the same is going to make it go up incrementally anyway, because that's where they are on the scale. And to me, it's very confusing trying to justify the groups, saying 0 to 10 and 11 to 20 and 20 plus. My goodness, we got a boatload of them in the 30s.
We need to make a motion.
No motion yet. We'll be voting on it later.
Yeah,
It's
you'll
just the
vote on it.
presentation portion.
But I guess we
When we
need to
get to
tell
action.
Rhonda
Yeah, direction, I guess.
what we want her to do.
And you can give me direction when you vote on it as well. You can
Okay.
do it either way. This.
And we can discuss this more when we get to the action item.
Right.
Did we just confuse you, or did you get the gist of?
No, I'm not confused at all, but I'm totally at your service, whatever you all want to do. And just remind you, don't forget to open the public meeting.
Yes, well, we're about
Are you
to
done
do
with
that.
me?
Hey, Ron, can I ask you,
Oh, sure.
if it might be the right time, but about
No, it's fine.
the food service fund. Is it-
Sure.
So, I love that you said, well, I was kidding, but free lunch, right, for all the kids this year? When you, on the budget, though, it looks like the estimated actual for last year was $265,000. Is that because we gave out free and the kids weren't actually buying the lunches? Is that
So
accurate?
let me get to that page so I can.
And then I guess if so, why is the budget $1 million higher in terms of expected revenue? If we're going to give
So if you look at the budget, this column is estimated actual, so this is where we're going to end up. But the budget was actually similar to what our budget was this year. Actually, our budget next year is about $30,000 lower than what we budgeted for this year.
But I guess was the reason the actual was so low is because we gave out free lunch? And if that's the case, if we're doing free lunch again this year, wouldn't it be similar?
So our food cost was lower because less kids were buying other snack foods and stuff like that. So it could very possibly be. But
No, but I'm sorry,
if everybody's getting back to work and the kids want to start buying snack food again, they may. And then that's going to help not only the revenue side, but it's going to, could possibly reach those expenditures. And if you have anything to add to that, Yvonne?
Food service, we have three ways of getting revenue. Local would be the sales from the a la carte and snack. And then we have state reimbursement, which is a one-time pay in March based on the number of lunches that we served the prior year. And then the federal reimbursement. And that's where we get the most of our revenue is from federal. So if our meals, the number of our meals are less, that's less federal revenue. And that's probably 60% of about 60% of our revenue, I think, is from people. So we didn't serve the amount of meals that we did last year or the year before because of COVID. So that's.
Enrollment's down.
And enrollment's down, right. So we're hoping to recover. We're getting a little bit of revenue from USDA. They're throwing us about $240,000 to help us recover. And they use a fancy formula, which I can't remember what it was. But then we're hoping with going back to campus face-to-face, we're going to have more kids eating. And they're also giving us a higher reimbursement rate. Instead of the $3.60 for lunch, they're going to give us $4.25, something like that. So, and then of course, we're hoping to do more breakfast. If kids are going to eat, they usually come for lunch, but we're hoping that breakfast increases as well when we go back next year. So, your question, were you asking?
Well, so we look at
He
it
was
on,
asking about the expenditures, so.
yeah, I'm just looking at the local revenue side of it, where it says like the actual was 265,000. I
Oh,
attributed
yes,
that to be
yes.
because we're not selling food.
Right,
Because
right.
A, we're not here, and B, we're giving it away
Right,
for free.
we're not selling extras, kids are not paying for their meals. But we do get offset by the reimbursement though, for some of that.
So, but just, I guess my question is, like, we're still gonna give those free meals this year, right? But you think selling extra a la
Yes.
carte is gonna bring it up?
Yes, that local revenue, right, exactly, and that's
Okay.
one of our goals for this year is to try to encourage those sales.
And also, things are changing. Parents are getting back to work and things like that, so kids may be eating more of those a la carte things that they've done in the past. Or they may not. We'll have to see. Anything else before?
Board, do you have any questions? We're going to be another time to ask Ms. Cumby for questions, but do you have any immediate right now? Okay.
No.
I'm going to go ahead and open
Thank
up
you.
the public hearing. It is 7:11 p.m. Anybody from the public like to speak and discuss on the budget or proposed tax rate? Don't all come up at once.
Right?
Okay, well, I guess we'll go ahead and if no one's partaking, then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:11 p.m. And then we'll go to item 7, reports, starting off with superintendent's report. A.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I'm proud to introduce to you some of our newest members of the LaPorte ISD administrative team. First and foremost, we'd like to welcome to the team Ms. Stephanie Davis, Assistant Principal at Jenny Reed Elementary. Stephanie? She's currently a LaPorte ISD employee where she most recently served as the behavior support teacher at Leo Rizzuto Elementary. She has 17 years of service in education, 13 in LaPorte. She's a LaPorte graduate, attended Baker Elementary, Jenny Reed, Baker again for junior high, and LaPorte High School. A bachelor's degree from the University of Houston, Clear Lake, and a master's degree from St. Thomas. Welcome once again, Stephanie. All right. Mr. Stacy Joseph comes to us. He's going to be at LaPorte High School. Welcome, Mr. Joseph. Mr. Joseph comes to us from Royal ISD, where he served as an assistant principal, and he has 17 years of service in education. He has a bachelor's and master's degree from Prairie View A&M University, and he will be supporting the team at LaPorte High School. Awesome. Welcome and congratulations. Next, we have Miss Janet Freeman, Assistant Principal at Leo Rizzuto Elementary. Let's welcome her. Ms. Freeman comes to us from Huffman ISD, where she served as an elementary assistant principal, 14 years of experience in education. She has a bachelor's and master's degrees from Stephen F. Austin State University. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have Mr. Jose Molina, Assistant Principal at LaPorte Junior High. Mr. Molina comes to us from Dickinson ISD, where he served as an academic coach, 11 years in education. He's a LaPorte graduate, attended LaPorte Elementary, LaPorte Junior High, and LaPorte High School. Has a bachelor's degree from the University of St. Thomas, master's degree in curriculum and instruction from the University of Houston, Clear Lake. Welcome one more time, Mr. Molina. And last but certainly not least is Ms. Janelle Tarr, Assistant Principal at James H. Baker Sixth Grade Campus. Janelle comes to us from Fort Bend ISD, where she served as high school programs coordinator. With 15 years of service in education, she has a bachelor's degree from the State University of New York at Buffalo and a Master of Science in Secondary Education from Towson University. Welcome, Ms. Tarr. We want to invite y'all to come on up, and we want to at least let the board shake your hand and we can take a picture. We like to take pictures around here. Whether y'all like them or not, come on, come on, come on. I guess we'll get you guys right across here, okay? Okay.
Yeah. We don't want to see Russell.
Okay, y'all don't run off, so we Welcome home for you. That's awesome. I'm glad you're staying. Welcome to Bulldog.
What year did you graduate? My daughter graduated the year before. Nice to have you. Very, very good. I love it. What year did you graduate? 90?
No, I think I just wanted to in the wrong order. I checked they're all here.
Okay, we'll go to item B, 7B, bullying update.
Good evening, board. I want to thank you for this opportunity to update you on bullying in Porte ISD. First, I want to show you our curriculum and guiding documents that we use here in LaPorte. Our curriculum and guiding documents guide our processes in response to bullying reports. All of our curriculum are focused on teaching healthy relationships, respect, tolerance, understanding, kindness, all those wonderful things. We have posters all over our district. See something, do something. See something, say something is actually what they say.
I like yours better
Do something about it, right?
Okay, y'all are missing the point.
We even have them in our bathroom stalls. This was not supposed to be a comedy routine. On the student portal, if you go to our internet, right to the right, there in big capital letters, it says anonymous reporting. And all of our students access our website. And next year we're going to be doing No Place for Hate, and that's an initiative of the Anti-Defamation League. And the initiative is designed to engage the entire school community, welcoming an environment committed to stopping all forms of bias and bullying.
What's the name of it?
No Place for Hate.
And is that going to be pre-K through?
It's going to be district-wide.
Okay. Awesome.
We enroll in August. So these are the platforms that we use to do our trainings and such. And the emotional backpack that we brought a couple of years ago is a trauma-informed program where we have trainers on every campus, and it basically works with children who have been traumatized or whatever. As we all know, kids that are a little bully-ish are typically from that type of an environment. So here are our trainings. All staff members get the bullying recognition response on safe schools. They get cyber security awareness for educators training on EduHero, cyberbullying updated on safe schools, and then we implemented Character Strong 3 years ago.
Is that every year, like in August?
Every year. Our counselors at the beginning of the year get their beginning of the year training, their PEMS implementation and such. Our administrators get our attorney reviews of our Porte ISD guidelines. And our students get Character Strong activities, restorative bullying circles, conflict resolution, emotional backpack, choosing the best, and it's your game. Choosing the best and it's your game are our abstinence-based sex education programs that we brought when I was at Baker. And the whole 6th grade program is surrounded about healthy relationships. What is appropriate, what's not, and such. As you all know, David's Law, Senate Bill 179 in the 85th legislation, address cyberbullying, so you can see that we are training to that. And our training is focused on healthy relationships, mental wellness, identifying trauma, and reporting concerns. So here's the definition of bullying. Engaging in written or verbal expression through electronic means, or physical conduct that occurs on school property or in a vehicle that is operated by a district that, 1, has the effect or will have the effect of physically harming a student, damaging a student's property, or placing a student in reasonable fear of harm to the student's person or of damage to the student's property, or is sufficiently severe, persistent, and pervasive enough that the action or threat creates an intimidating, threatening, or abusive educational environment for the student. Now, the conduct that we just read in those two points is considered bullying if that conduct exploits an imbalance of power between the student perpetrator and the student victim through written or verbal expression or physical conduct, and interferes with the student's education or substantially disrupts the operation of a school. Y'all, our public schools are the crossroads of our society. While every known report is investigated, often the investigation finds that these two prongs didn't exist, but there is always a response to the reported behavior. So our bullying process here in LaPorte, step 1, we have campus notification. Students can report, teachers can report. We have the anonymous bullying box on every campus, the anonymous response alert app. Then once there's a report made, step 2 is to investigate it. And our administrators or counselors receive the report, and the report forms are followed. And that's at LPISD guidelines to addressing bullying, cyberbullying, sexual harassment, dating violence, and sexual violence. Reports are often our first opportunity to intercept undesirable behavior. When situations are reported, it gives the campus an opportunity to not only investigate, but to implement resources before situations actually become bullying events. Interventions provided by our campus counselors along with our district mental health team are instrumental in addressing these situations. We are more often than not the educators of appropriate and inappropriate behavior and treatment of peers. So shut up, you loser. Your hair is hideous. You know, the child runs up to the office and says, you know, Kathy's bullying me. But really, it's inappropriate behavior. It would be looked at. Is this happening more often than this incident? And such. So step 3 is outcomes from the investigation. There's discipline and or mediation and or stay away agreements. And those are all located in that LBISD guides to addressing the bullying and cyberbullying. So here are the incidences pulled from PEMS of bullying. In 2018-19, we had 7. 2019-20, we had 1. And 2020-21, we had 2. So we currently have low numbers of actual bullying outcomes. However, we do train and have processes in place to investigate each report. LPISD has also secured effective programs and increased our mental health staff that have made an impact. Also, we did not return after spring break of that 1920 year, and we had a virtual option of attending school in 2021, and students who feel vulnerable may have stayed home. And there's more to come from the Texas 87 legislation, so stay tuned. Thank you. Questions?
I guess my question is, like, on the instances, is how it's coded in the system, because with the discipline issue, you know, I could, you know, be picking on Dr. Jackson over here and maybe coded as maybe an assault. You know, how's it, as far as the discretion on AP, how's it coded? Is it Boolean? How's it coded when it's a disciplinary infraction in the system, I guess?
It's whatever the investigation occurs.
Okay.
You know, whatever it is, whatever the findings are, that's how it's coded. And our APs and counselors have, you know, PEMS indicators with a descriptor outside of those team members.
So I don't think, you know, to answer your question, you already answered it, but to go further with it, I don't think anybody is not reporting them properly. You know, they're just, the codes are not coming up. That shows that it was really, you know, capability.
I guess, I mean, it seems like it's almost like a semantics problem of like, oh, I mean, so it's great. You look at these numbers, 7, 2, 1, and, you know, but I think the image is, if you talk to parents in different, at every school, I would be willing to bet that a parent at any school in this district would say, we have way more than 7 in a week, right? Like, so I just feel like maybe when I say semantics, maybe our definition of what we classify our PEEM, whatever that stands for, classifies as bullying is way too narrowly specific.
And it also could be that the child is not reporting it at all. Could be, right?
Oh, not bringing it? Absolutely.
Yeah. So a lot of times parents will hear things that an administrator hadn't heard or a teacher hadn't heard. I'm not saying always, but there are many times parents hear things from kids that the teacher has no clue that happened in the classroom.
And some of your parents that bring it to our attention, when you investigate it,
Right.
their child was actually bullying that child, and that child retaliated.
So I agree with that. I think there's probably a middle ground. I feel like our number is way too low, and then the parents' number is probably way too high. That makes sense.
Right.
But how do we work to bridge that gap and to make it like a more accurate, true representation of if this is, because I guess what I'm getting at is we hear from the parents, since we're elected officials, we hear,
Sure.
man, this is going on. We hear, you know, the gripe, right? And you got to take it with a grain of salt, because to your point, maybe their kids involved, and who knows what's actually truly going on. But how do we get a more accurate representation if this is actually more of a problem? Because the people will tell you this is a prevalent issue going around. I've talked to teachers, administrators, a lot of people telling us this is a big issue. But and this, you know, listen to this report, it's not a problem at all. You got one incident. So there's got to be a middle ground is what I'm getting at. I don't know the answer to how to get to.
Yeah, those numbers shock me, considering what we hear and what we're told from parents.
I'm sure.
But, go ahead.
Those numbers are shocking. I'll just
Yeah.
leave it at that
And
before I
we can-
stick my foot in my mouth.
We will continue to look at these things and examine
Absolutely.
ways that we can better address and better even identify those things. But what I know for a fact is a lot of times when things are investigated, I think Ms. Anderson has already said it, once the administrator have finalized that investigation, it was probably a mutual something going on with both kids, you know, and it doesn't kind of reach the threshold of what the PEMS code calls for bullying. Now, I could be
But
wrong,
we will
but we certainly
continue to
need
look at it, definitely.
We definitely can.
And I know that this is not within our control, because even recently, I've called TEA. I have a real problem with, I don't care what mediation is done or what, a true bullying situation, to put those children back together in the same classroom, it is so grossly unfair to turn the victim into the criminal and make them, well, if you want to move schools, go ahead and move, but, otherwise everybody's staying. That is not smart. I don't understand that at all.
And you have it on the presentation that stay away agreement. If they're in the same classroom, obviously,
They can't
So-
stay
they
away.
can't stay away, so I don't
They
understand that.
can, actually, they can. Let's say we have a GT classroom. They are both, to your point, they are both spoken to, that they both have an obligation to stay away from the other one. We notify the teacher knows that those two cannot be in a group together. But they can actually, and we've had it be successful, where they can be in the same classroom. They just know that they are to stay away, and there's responsibility on both, for both parties.
And also, also I've been hearing from parents too, when there may be necessitates a schedule change. A lot of times it's the victim that's getting taken out of the classroom instead of the one that's the perpetrator. I've been hearing some, this is things I've heard,
and of course I couldn't speak to that.
And so, I don't know, my thinking is, as far as any kind of discussion coming out of this, I guess, would be seeing, as far as what we're doing on the campuses, seeing if we're doing it consistently with the character education you had brought up, making sure that we're implementing that consistently across our campuses, and making sure that we're addressing the disciplinary function of it adequately, consistently, and fairly. And I know that kind of falls on the person,
No, that's a
all
fair
that
request.
there, so.
Yeah, and that's what we, yeah.
And we don't mean to come across as if there's not an issue. I mean, all of us went to elementary school at some point and saw it and probably, experienced it in some way, form, or fashion. But right now, that's the data that we have based on what was coded. So maybe we just need to look at, what those are, and we'll
Sure.
examine that. I mean, we don't want, and I'll also say, to those parents, that are working with the principals and the assistant principals, make certain that we are encouraging them to talk to us, because a lot of times, it's more than just the incident that happened in the classroom.
Absolutely.
That we need to address.
And it's impossible to respond to something that we don't even know about.
Yeah, and a lot of it too, just to piggyback on what Dr. Jackson said, is, it's, a lot of times too, it's not just in the classroom or on the school campus, it could be on the internet, it could be social media,
Absolutely.
and things going on there, and so.
That cyberbullying is a big, huge piece.
Yes.
Well, I just know we promised to keep them safe.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
then sometimes, you're right, most of the time, it takes two to fight, that's for sure. But there's so many times when they're too timid or
Sure.
they don't want to say, and I don't know what to do about that. That's a difficult,
We can keep working on it.
yeah.
So I'm not pinning you on the exact number, but I would be willing to bet there's a lot more stay away agreements at every single school than what's reported on the P number, right?
I don't even know if those get,
I
don't
I guess maybe the Jeff.
Maybe I should know, I just know of numerous.
Yeah, but the numbers that were reported, I don't think they were stay away agreements.
no,
Those were just
no.
the
A
number of
stay away
bullying
agreement is
incidents.
just another mediation, or room mediation.
But my point is, so we're just reporting the highest of the high, maybe the worst case bullying scenarios, I guess is what I'm getting at least in my head, right?
Correct.
So, and I get that, but they're not accounting for all the other ones. I mean, if it's bad enough to where they have to put a stay away agreement in place, maybe we should be tracking those numbers. Does that make sense? Like, at each campus, maybe Shore Mary has 500 or whatever it is.
No,
That
I
to me
think,
is a more-
I get what you're
That's a much
saying.
more
right?
accurate, meaningful gauge, at least to me, to see like, is this really a problem? It's enough of a problem where they have to have a stay away agreement. It's not getting to where it's like, you're gonna go to court, or what, I don't know, whatever the P requirement is.
Duly noted.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Duly
It
noted.
Now, there should be,
Duly noted.
I mean, I would think there's gotta be in the discipline tracking system that, okay, we put in, there's a warning, we contacted the parent, and we put in a stay away. I mean, I would think we would have that documentation, I would think about.
It's in our
So we-
disciplinary,
So we could get those
But
numbers
that might be under
possibly.
disciplinary and not under bullying?
it
Is that what
might,
you're saying?
it might. Because
Suggest-
not all stay away agreements are created from bullying situations.
Okay. Okay, one more question. We had a parent come speak recently at a board meeting, and he mentioned something about a discipline board And where does that fall in the process? What criteria brings a case before that type board, and who is that board comprised of?
Yeah, I can speak to that.
Here come Ms.
I
Tilly.
used to be the chair, but I'm not anymore.
All right, we reference it in the code of conduct. I apologize, I didn't bring the code of conduct
That's
with me.
okay.
But it is the report, it's made up of representatives from each campus. It's not, we are just reviewing the disciplinary action. Each campus has their own behavior coordinator. And it's just an oversight, we're an oversight group that is reviewing to make sure that we have gone through all of the protocols to address each disciplinary action.
So
They
it's
may
not
be-
just looking at bullying cases?
No.
It's looking
No,
at all
no.
types of discipline?
And that board, or it's not called a board, it's a
No, it's
committee,
not, yeah,
does not
committee.
make decisions. The principals, the campus principals make the
Right.
decision on the number of days. And it was created for consistency. And we have a SPED person that sits on the committee to
A
ensure
behavior
that the
specialist.
children, if they're SPED or 504, have had an MDR completed, that they don't go longer than 45 days, all of those legalities. So
Okay.
it's a committee.
Ms. Tilly, list all of the folks, just titles of folks that are on those committees at that level.
And are you talking about that I have a campus, the campus behavior coordinator, which is either the principal or one of the assistant principals? We have the SPED representative, our director of special education, the behavior.
Mental health.
Yes,
often is part of it.
and the discipline, you got me off my.
I'm
thing.
sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
The behavior, I'm trying to think of my
She's
list
trying to go
here.
down her list.
The behavior specialist, who is also with Cindy's department. We have James Odom. He is another one of our
Communities
behavior
and schools, yes.
specialists. And sometimes I have more than one of the administrators. We have a representative from elementary. Sometimes our elementary administrators aren't at every one of our meetings because they don't always have a student, but we always have a representative from the elementary. I mean, there's 20 of us usually that are handling this.
But it's an oversight committee
It is an
that's
oversight.
designed to review just.
And we review,
the
and we
practices of the campus.
reference our code of conduct, and sometimes sometimes the recommendation is brought to the committee, and as Ms. Anderson shared, they may be a SPED student. We want to make sure they've had an MDR before they've been brought to the committee to make sure that those behaviors were not what is
Part
it?
of their disability.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yes, ma'am.
Right, and as you said, the 45 days. A serious situation would warrant possible expulsion. We don't expel. At that point, we recommend expulsion. We've reviewed the circumstances, and then we would recommend an expulsion to Mr. Clausen, who heads up that as the deputy superintendent over serious.
Those are Title V offenses, those aren't
Yeah.
bullying.
So it's basically y'all are reviewing, looking for inconsistencies, or consistencies, that
Correct.
it would be, we would hope.
Correct.
Okay.
And I hate to be obtuse, but is this after the principal makes the recommendation? I mean, you clearly
Yes.
stated the principal makes the
Yes,
recommendation, and y'all are
it's
just
after.
oversight. So afterwards, you look at it, and you're sure that he is aware of everything that...
Yes.
that
Or
you
she,
know.
yeah.
Or she,
Yeah,
right.
but that-
And so then it moves on, but he doesn't go to Clausen, you would go to Clausen?
I would go to
if-
Clausen.
Okay.
Another piece of this is that once the parent has been communicated, because level 1 is the principal or the behavior coordinator for that campus, and if the parent disagrees with the decision of the principal, they can appeal the level 1. They would appeal the level 1 to the principal. If they still disagree with the decision of the principal, then they would appeal, following our policy to go to level 2
Go to the next.
or level 3, and it would come to y'all.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Can you confirm, one more thing, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
When students are new to campuses and parents are new to campuses, are we making an extra effort to let them know that, we have a zero bullying policy? Or are we just assuming that that's in the code of conduct that they sign and we move on?
They all receive the student handbook and sign off on that. I don't know.
Are we doing anything at the first of the year, like to meet the teachers or anything like that where we could?
And they said our
Make a
counselors do
concerted
have,
effort.
because they create their schedules and they have them sitting there and
Okay.
that's where that.
Small
And we-
orientation, maybe.
Right, and we go through all of that in the, with the students. We go through all of the expectations, the code of conduct, all of these policies. I think if they're new to the, after the beginning of the school year, then
That's a good note. That's a good note.
the campuses, I know whenever I was a campus principal, then we would have an orientation with the families to make sure they understood,
Okay,
what the expectations
With the
were.
parent, the children.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to item C, preliminary STAR/EOC results.
So Board, Dr. Wadley is coming, and I'll just say as, to provide some context to her presentation today. These are preliminary results. We do not have final results, and certainly these results and data, these data that are going to be shared is representative of the first take of the STAR and EOC exams. Generally, when we would give the board an update, excuse me, it would have possibly been even first and second testing our assessments, and mobility and all of those other pieces that the TEA would look through and extrapolate before giving us our final data would have been done. But this is just a very raw look at where we are. Dr. Watley is going to share a whole lot about where we've come from. We don't mean to beat this horse over the head too long, but we all know what we've gone through over the last 14, 15 months. I have been very clear and very transparent with the board weekly in our updates about, just where we are. Probably the best thing that we did this year as a team of 8 is to make the decision to bring everybody back in January. And you'll see some of those bright spots, but you'll also see some things that are not so bright, but we're not surprised because, of what we've been through. So Dr. Watley, take it away.
Thank you, and really and thank you very much, Dr. Jackson. The only thing I would just add about these preliminary results is that the TEA did do a good thing in providing us on-demand files so that we could have these scores, even though they're not fully official, and it has assisted us. Absolutely, it has assisted us with planning and summer acceleration. Okay, so just to take a look at where we've been over this past school year. We did start out completely virtual for 3 weeks, but once our kids came back to school, and we had about 76% that came back face-to-face. But as you'll recall, those of you that were on the board when we talked in the fall semester, our teachers were concurrently teaching in their classroom, and what that meant was they had kids that were in the class where they were teaching face-to-face, and they had a group of kids that were learning virtual, and they were teaching both at the same time. And they were doing a yeoman's job, but it was hugely stressful, and you all heard from them. And so we were taking into account the stress level that it provided our teachers, and it was stressful for our kids as well. What we did see that occurred in the fall and even into the spring at that time, when kids wanted to come in to in-person learning, we let them come. We welcomed them with open arms. What that kind of created was this ongoing first day of school. Teachers were having to, welcome them and teach them routines, but nonetheless, they were coming to school, and we were happy about that. By about November, we were hugely concerned. We came to the board. Our teachers were talking about the high stress levels we were sharing. We had very high failure rates for our virtual students, and even our in-person students were experiencing failure rates. And that was occasioned by a variety of things, but as you know, we followed COVID protocols, and if students or staff were exposed or became ill, they had to go out on protocol. And we had lots of kids and lots of students lots of kids and lots of staff that could be out. But just to give you a glimpse, from January to March, we had a total of 2,035 students that were out up to 7 to 10 days because they were having to self-isolate. I mean, that's a lot. That's, nearly a third of our students.
Right.
Then, February 2021, you can forget the freeze. And, that occasioned 5 days out, and certainly we had learning disruption. And in spite of all of this, we were told that we would be administering the STAR. And that wasn't all horrible, despite the fact that the commissioner did allow the virtual learners to opt out. But what we did know is what these STAR results would provide for us was data to help us identify learning gaps. It helped us develop intervention plans for students. So in that regard, it was a good thing. And we certainly have acknowledged, we knew ending up last spring we were going to have learning loss, and we knew even this year we were going to have learning loss. But we have proactively sought out opportunities to help our students. And one example of that is the Resilient School Support Program that I talked to you all about at the last board meeting. Okay, so let's just start digging in.
Linda, before you start saying that,
Sure.
have these scores been sent to parents? Or is there a way for the parents to see
They
them?
don't, not yet, okay. They're because they're not official yet. So,
Okay, gotcha.
So
Parents can log in and see
They can go in
them?
through the parent portal.
Yeah, they can.
Okay, hang on.
Uh-oh, I've opened up a whole,
Hold on.
God, sorry.
No, good evening. No, the EOCs, the end of course exams, and 5 and 8 reading and math, the TEA has released the official results we get. So those are accessible for parents in the parent portal. The only ones that are not accessible right now are all the rest of 3 through 8. And so parents should be able to access those as of Monday, the 28th.
So EOC and what?
And the 5th and 8th reading and math.
Okay.
Because remember, normally we have SSI, so normally we have 2 administrations and
Yes.
5 and 8. So
Yeah.
they kept them separate even though we gave them at the same time this year.
Yeah.
So we got those results first, the 5 and 8 reading and math. And then next Monday, the parents will have the rest of the results. So by Monday, all the results will be posted
Okay.
in the parent portal for parents to
Thank you.
access.
And this preliminary data, this is just our data, that they did not release any comparative data as far as our region or state or nothing
No,
like
at
that?
this juncture, all
No.
we've got, the official reports are say just our data.
Okay.
But
Thank you,
we'll
Mr.
have
Green.
that in time.
Yeah.
And real quickly, I guess overall, before you go into the results here, what percentage of our test takers generally in the district, is it online compared to on paper? Because I know to move the district to get everybody online.
Yes, I will say we had those discussions internally. I would say the way it ended up is it was a flip-flop. So at the elementary level, we probably had, let's say 80-85% that took it on paper, and then it may be even higher than that with 10-15% on the computer. At the secondary, where we had the one-to-one devices, plus kids are more proficient at using the computer, then it was almost mirrored the other way. That it was about 85 to 90% online and 10 to 15% paper. So this year we made the decision late. So we had boxes and boxes of materials for the secondary that we shipped back unopened because the majority of the secondary we gave online.
Okay.
Okay. I guess
Thank you, Ms. Green.
Yeah, I guess this is for a topic for another
Okay.
time, but just generally how we're going to reach that goal of making sure everybody's online testing.
We are working, yeah, and we are working internally on STAR 2.0 and all of that stuff. And so
Okay.
there's already plans from Dr. Wadley and her entire team that are working on that, because we know that's coming.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. So, we did not have STAR last year. So the last time our students took STAR was in 2019. And as Dr. Jackson had talked about, with mobility, so just keep in mind, this really isn't apples and apples, but we wanted to at least provide a comparison that you could go back to. You can go back to the taper and see how the Porte ISD fared in 2019. So, to set a little more context, approaches, meets, and masters. Approaches, grade level, GL means grade level. That means the student passes. Meets grade level, they scored at a higher standard, and we really want all of them to score at that higher standard. But that is our goal. We have that embedded in our HB3 board goals and our district improvement plan. That's where we want our kids performing. And of course, masters is the highest level that they can perform on the STAR test. But approaches is passing. Okay, and I'm not going to read all of these to you, but you can see that in 2021, 80% of our third graders in reading passed the test, 43% met grade level, and 20% were masters. In fourth grade, 75, meets 43, masters 20. Now, the reason why fifth grade is starred or has an asterisk, as Jennifer said, in the past, that Student Success Initiative afforded fifth and eighth graders 3 opportunities to pass the reading and math test. And so the 2019 taper at 95% for reading, that was the first and second administration. Okay, one early April and then in May. We wanted to go ahead and share it compared to the 2 administrations because we administered our test in May. It's not apples and apples, but we felt like that was a more appropriate measure.
Kudos to our 5th grade reading teachers.
You bet. Yeah, absolutely, thank you. And feel free to stop me. I'm just going to go ahead and move on to 6 through 8 reading. You can see in 2021, 66% at approaches, 27 meets, 12 masters. In 7th grade, 69, 41, 22. And in 8th grade, 76, 42, and 20. Moving to mathematics, grades 3 through 5. Grade 3, 2021, 79 approached, 39 met grade level, 13 masters. These are percents. 4th grade, 72, 47, 27. And then in 5th grade, again, comparing the first and second administration in 2019 to the first and only administration in 2021. Moving to grades 6 through 8, math. 6th grade, 86, 47, and 18. 7th grade, 51, 11, and 1. I will say, 7th grade is the grade where if kids are advanced in mathematics in 7th grade math, they take the 8th grade math test. So they wouldn't be represented in the 7th grade figures. And then again,
So some of your stronger students are already taking 8th grade math?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Do we don't start earlier, like do 6th grade, some do 6th grade through 7th grade math?
We have not. When the math TEKs were revised several years ago, there was a point in time with 6th grade, we taught mostly 6th and integrated some 7th grade. But then when the math teach changed and 6th grade changed dramatically, we kept 6th grade pure because they moved, the TEKs moved significantly. And then we took 7th grade, and that's where we started providing the acceleration. And I don't know if you'll recall this or not, but for several years, they had 7th grade and they had 8th grade TEKs, but they took the 7th grade test. And then somewhere, probably, I don't know, Ms. Yolanda, maybe in the last, 8 years or something like that, we ensured they had all of the 8th grade TEKs and they tested on the 8th grade STAR.
Okay.
And, one of the things we've been hearing all spring from the commissioner was that they were seeing signs that mathematics was really, across the state, struggling. Okay. So we'll move to grades 4 and 7 writing. 2021, 4th grade, 66, 30, and 9. And 7th grade, 66, 30, and 6. And one thing that I will share as an interesting piece of information is Dr. Jackson talked about preparing for like STAR 2.0. There will not be a standalone writing test for 4th and 7th grade next year. There'll be a field test, but there will not be a standalone writing test. In the following year, 22-23, writing will be embedded into the 3 through 8 reading test. So after, there will not be any more standalone writing.
Interesting.
Moving on to STAR Science, grades 5 and 8. 2021, 5th grade, 80, 43, 17. And 8th grade, 79, 54, 28. So they had something going on in a good way. And then 8th grade social studies, we actually made increases across the board in our code.
Yay.
Yay.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on to STAR end of course. In English 1, we actually had an increase from 2019, and meets and masters 45 and 6, and then English 2, 67, 50, and 4. Now, what I will tell you at the end of course, which is a little different from our 3 through 8, when it says down here, this includes all testers, first time and retesters. So we could have kids that needed to retest from a prior year. It could even be from another year. So we do have multiple testers represented. All schools do too. All right, moving on to our final 3, Algebra 1, Biology, and U.S. History. You can see in Algebra 2021, 67, 28, 14. Biology, 82, 50, and 16. And U.S. History, 93, 72, and 45.
That's history.
So, how will the STAR scores be used? For student learning and recovery only. Schools and districts will not be rated this year. It will be not rated, disaster declared, like something along that line. The STAR scores will not affect promotion for students in any grade, but we are very specifically identifying acceleration opportunities for the students that did not pass. And we may have talked about this last time, but if there were any 2021 graduates that had not met a STAR end of course, there were some options for them. So, and that's all I have to share for this evening, unless you don't have any questions.
And thank you, Dr. Watley. Board, I wanted to just make certain that you had an opportunity to see this data. because we'll come back in August and share again.
Yes.
But we didn't want you to have to wait until August
Right.
to see the data, right? And I was kind of mentioning over here as a sidebar when you were talking, Monday, when all of this is released, something will go out from the district as well to encourage our parents to go to the parent portal. But what we don't want to do is confuse our parents and everybody goes there and somebody can't find something right now. And so I believe Monday, Jennifer was saying, all of the preliminary data will be released, and then our district will share with our parents ways that they could
You bet.
access that data from the parent portal.
Right. That's just, and I know you all know this from when we met last couple weeks ago. I mean, we are actively moving forward with our plans. We're working with students this summer, and so we are committed to helping our kids close those learning gaps.
Thank you, Dr. Wadley.
Thank you, Dr. Wong.
Uh-huh.
We'll move to item D, overview of the LaPorte High School Targeted Intervention Plan. Dr. Brown?
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Just 1 second to get this going. Okay, so as you see, we've got some gaps to fill. Obviously, we knew that was coming, and we've been talking about some things for some time now, knowing that, we've lost, I think the estimates are 5 to 6 months of learning with all our students. That's our top students, that's our lowest students. And so we've got some gaps to fill. And so we've been talking about how can we provide targeted intervention for these students. And when I say targeted intervention, we're looking at specifically what does this student need, what does this student need, what does this group of students need. And so I've been doing this for like longer than I want to remember, but we've always struggled to find a way to provide intervention during the school day. We struggle doing it before school like we were having to do this year with tutorials and things. We struggle with after schools simply because a lot of times the kids that you need to be there are the kids that have other obligations and aren't able to make it. So we want to provide targeted intervention in the school day. We've used Bulldog Period that you've heard about in the past, other intervention, they've been called by all kinds of names. One of the problems with that is the structure almost is the problem. So you have this structure, but then you've got to try to get kids into different rooms, and then you've got to take care of the kids that are displaced because of that, and so that becomes a problem. So since I've been here, so I'm starting my 5th year here, for 4 years we've actually had this conversation about possibly doing something what they call mega lunch. We're naming it Bulldog Lunch. And so I want to talk to you about that because that resurfaced from the staff this year. It was brought back to me as something to consider. And we've looked at that, and we are wanting to move that direction. I just wanted to share with you a little bit of what it looks like, and so that you're kind of in the know. So I can get this to work. So Bulldog Lunch is an opportunity for students to have access to additional academic support during the school day. Basically what happens, right now we've been working on a 4 lunch period schedule, which even complicates things when we're trying to get kids into intervention. But normally we would operate on a 3-period lunch schedule. In this scenario, or in this plan, we would have 1 lunch. It would be an hour long, so all students would break for lunch at the same time. During the lunch, students would have the opportunity to, of course, eat lunch, number 1. But the important thing is they have the opportunity to attend intervention and extension with their teachers. So teachers would have their lunch, and then they would have certain teachers on certain days would have periods where they could work with kids and provide, I don't want to use the word tutorials because tutorials doesn't really say what we're trying to do. We're trying to intervene with kids that are having struggles, and we want to intervene with them quickly and try to get those corrected. But tutorials would be part of it as well. Opportunity for students who potentially will sit before an IGC. When Dr. Wadley talked about other options for graduation, that's what she's referring to as the individual graduation committees. We require them to do certain work to provide proof of mastery so that we can reward them with a diploma. And so they have things they've got to work on, so we could use it for that. STAR, acceleration and prep, of course. Peer tutoring, PSAT, SAT prep, counselor meetings, school business. If students need to go see the clerk and pay fines, do paperwork in the counselor's office, different things like that. Class meetings, student organization meetings, career exploration guest speakers, and character education are just a few of the things that we can do during that time because we have flexibility. And I don't want to give when I say opportunities to attend intervention, it's important to know that it's not going to be voluntary necessarily. So there will be opportunities for students to voluntarily go to a teacher for tutorials, but certain students who are targeted that need the intervention, it'll obviously be a mandatory thing, and we guide them to those places, however we need to do that. The benefits is we have targeted intervention time to address achievement gaps. We have the potential access to 5 hours of academic support per week outside of the regular classroom. Promotes self-direction, personalized learning, student choice, and social, emotional learning and responsibility. Increase opportunities for all students to participate in multiple clubs and organizations. We have a lot of students that ride the bus. It's very difficult for them to meet in clubs that meet after school and be a part of that, so this would provide them, as those clubs could meet during this time, they could be a part of those. Extracurricular activities can begin immediately after school. Rather than having our athletes come in for tutorials after school, we don't have to worry about that because it's taking place during the school day, which helps our students in multiple ways. Number one, we can go ahead and get that done, finish earlier, our students are able to get home earlier and not have to wait and start practice late. Opportunity for SPED case monitors to meet with their students on their caseload. Opportunity for special programs to provide social skill support. And surprisingly, so I know probably one of the things that you're thinking, 1,900 kids released for lunch at the same time. So right now, we have 3 lunches, 650 kids approximately per lunch. We have 10 individuals who monitor those 650 kids. With this, we'll have all of our students out, but we'll have probably around 70 staff members monitoring kids. So actually, the ratio of staff to students goes down. Surprisingly, when I saw that, it surprised me as well. So we'd actually have fewer students per teacher to monitor. So we would be posted at all the exits all around the building to make sure that the students are safe.
Logistically, can you tell me where they're going to be?
Exactly.
I don't have we have that written up, but I can tell you, so it would be every exit.
No,
No,
not the
kids.
kids.
Oh, the kids.
Kids.
Okay, so the idea is that you have,
I mean, are they going to be in the hallway on the floor? Because not all of them can fit in the...
it'll be not all over the building. I don't want to say all over the building. We have areas where they can be and areas where they can't be. So we have learning areas and we have areas where they can eat. So yes, they can eat in the hallways, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second, some things we've observed. But they can eat in the hallways, they can eat in different parts of the building, but they'll be monitored in those places. And obviously there are things we'll have to work on, is making sure that the building stays clean and that kids are picking up after themselves and different things like that. So, but yes, and then we'll have staff covering the entire building, even where there aren't students, so we can monitor.
So the staff's lunch will be obviously at a different time.
So we have an hour. Teachers are guaranteed a 30-minute duty-free lunch.
Right.
So they have duty for 30 minutes, and then they have their lunch for 30 minutes. So they either have duty or they're offering tutorials. So we protect that.
Okay, good.
So how did we get here? I want to talk to you about the decision-making. I'm sorry if that's small. I didn't, but I'll go over each one with you. I want to tell you how we got here. So again, this has been a multi-year conversation we've had. It's brought to us by the staff about 4 years ago, and 3 or 4 years ago, and came back this year. And so we revisited it, and so we knew of some schools that were doing it. Clear Lake does it. Clear Falls does it. Clear Lake's been doing it for about 7 or 8 years, I believe. And Clear Falls just started. So we sent groups of teachers and administrators to both campuses on one day when we have professional development. We got tips from them. Actually, Mr. Drake used to be principal here. He's at Clear Lake now. He had a whole presentation for us. He had teachers talk to us. He had students talk to us, let us sit through their lunch. We walked around and it was surprisingly calm and surprisingly organized. Of course, it takes some training to get students to be that way, but we got to do that. We've talked to administrators of other campuses that we weren't able to visit. We talked to Pasadena. Dobie still does this.
Yeah, I think Dobie. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, and they're doing it. They've been doing it for quite a few years. I don't know exactly how many. I talked to a principal in Buda Hayes High School. Is it Hayes High School? Yeah. in Buda, and they just ended it. They did it, but they're changing to an alternating block district-wide, and so they had to give it up this next year. There are some administrators in the Metroplex that are doing it as well. And then, actually, Ms. Abrams in Dickinson, they tried it a couple times. Now, I will say that it wasn't successful there, but that's what we wanted to talk to her for, because we wanted to know what they did or what they didn't do that we could do to try to make it work. And so we tried to get views from all kinds of successful, unsuccessful, and so forth. Next, we got staff feedback. We talked to the teachers that went with and got their opinions on this and what they thought. I can tell you that they were all excited about it and thought it was a great idea. We then took that to the staff, had a presentation to the staff, and then got feedback from them. I didn't put this on the presentation, but I'll just share. I wrote down the numbers from my staff survey.
And can you share some of those tidbits that you may have gotten from other campuses about what worked and what didn't? Because we kind of have a framework of what you're thinking of and addressing.
So the things that you have to be in a certain place. I can't say that you could do this at every school.
Mm-hmm.
If you have some serious discipline issues, for example, and I'm just going to say if you have a lot of mutual combats, things like that, this is probably not a great idea. We've worked very hard over the last ever since I've been here to reduce that number, and we've brought that way down. With our restorative discipline, we meet with kids. Kids come to us now when they're having a problem with another student. Surprisingly, they'll come and say, hey, we need to sit down and talk about this. And so we've done a lot of hard work to get to where we think we can do this. Other things are making sure that, cafeteria doesn't get too crowded, too many students in the line. We have some solutions for that. And we actually met with, I didn't put it on here, but Yvonne was a part of the conversation early on because we knew food service was an issue for this. And she had some reservations. We worked through it together, and she feels like she can support us in this. Trying to think of any other specific things. Just monitoring kids, making sure kids are where they're supposed to be, and having a presence. The key to this is the staff being on board and the staff being where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. That's the most important part, and that's why we really pushed for staff buy-in before doing this, because we knew if I had 30% of my teachers that weren't in favor of this, I'd already told my administrators we weren't going to do it, because if you don't have significant buy-in, it's not going to be successful. And so we did a survey, and out of 165, excuse me, not 165, I'm sorry, we had 158 that were supportive. We had 6 that wanted a little bit more information, which we worked to provide them, and we had 4 who weren't in favor of it. And actually, one of the 4 left the district. So we'll say 3.
And then there were
they didn't leave because of Bulldog period. I will say they had already signed before that. But we have overwhelming support, and the teachers were very supportive of it. We actually had a staff member whose child goes to Clear Lake, and said it's great, and said the students over there love it, and so. I don't want to paint a picture this is going to be a beautiful thing from very start. It's going to be complicated. It's going to be rocky. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be challenges. And we're going to try to address those as we go through this. And so I wanted to kind of share the next steps with you real quickly. So the next thing is parent-student information meetings. And then we're already in the process of developing our processes and expectations. We're pretty far down the road on that. Student training. So when we come back to school, we're not going to say, okay, we're doing this. We're going to have 3 weeks where every day we're going to have our 3-period lunch, and then we have a Bulldog period, and every day we preach to students. This is how this is how you have to act. This is the things you have to do for us to make this work. We'll spend 3 weeks doing that, and then we do a gradual implementation. We try it a day or 2 a week, see how it works, back off, adjust. And then we're not even setting a hard date for implementation. When we're ready, we'll do it. If that takes a semester, it'll take a semester. If it takes 2 weeks, it'll take 2 weeks. It's important to remember that we always have the 3-bell scheduled lunch available at all times. At Clear Lake, they kept it posted around the building. And the reason they did that is, for lack of a better word, it was a threat. If you don't clean up after yourself, if you don't behave correctly in this, we go back to this. And they did it several times. They just, boom, one day they're back at it. And so, I don't like to use the word threat, but you get what I'm saying.
Consequence.
It's a consequence if we can't handle the freedom that you get. And I know one of the concerns that you probably have is discipline and so forth. And that, obviously, that's what scares a lot of people away from this. I will tell you that the things that we were worried about, students getting off campus and so forth, we're already fighting those battles. We feel like we'll actually be more secure this way. Sergeant Novosad and Corey Marler have worked hard with us to help us to do some things. We're going to try to do some things in the parking lot to limit access to and from the parking lot during the school day. Officers will be monitoring the entrances, so if someone does get to their car and tries to leave campus, and obviously we'll be there to monitor that. Again, I don't want to paint a picture this is going to be the perfect thing, but we think it's a viable solution to getting kids. This is all about, I want to go back, I'm sorry if I'm taking too long, Dr. Jackson, but I want to go back and tell you that it's all about this. It's all about intervention and extension. That's the whole purpose of this. These freedoms they get and this tutoring, and those are great consequences, school business, class meeting, but it's about getting students the help they need quickly, because we know we've got huge gaps that have grown. We've already had gaps, achievement gaps. There's no doubt about that. But we looked at the data, 3 weeks ago? Is that right? And you can see it in our numbers. The gaps have grown significantly. So the students that were struggling are struggling more. And so they're falling further behind their colleagues, and we've got to do something to prevent that. So any more questions, I'm willing to take any questions you have.
Board, do you have any questions?
I don't really have a question, but I have a comment.
Okay.
I applaud you, your administration, and your teachers for being solution-minded. And, if it took 2 or 3 years to get here, okay. But the fact that y'all are searching for solutions for kids is awesome. I think it's great that you worked on getting buy-in by sending the teachers to other campuses to witness it, to watch it, to learn it, to see it. That speaks volumes. And you're right, when you're trying to lead anything through a change, your first thing is to get buy-in. So, the buy-in of the students will be next, but I think the positives far outweigh. And when you look at what the outcome could be a year from now and 2 years from now, I just applaud y'all for what you're thinking and what you're trying to do. And like you said, if it takes 6 weeks to make it happen or whatever it is, we'll get there.
Well, applaud my staff, because to be honest, the reason it took 3 years is because their principal had real hesitation.
You didn't have buy-in yet?
I wasn't buy-in until this year. And so it took me a long time to get on the train.
Are they still here? Where are they at?
They are. It's a group of teachers. They've been involved since the very beginning.
They're just kind of smiling right now.
Yeah.
Mr. Grammer, I have some questions on it, and
Sure.
actually I work at a campus that has Mega Lunch, but we're a small campus, so
Sure.
But I lived through some of it. I haven't seen how Dobie does it, or Clear Lake or Clear Falls, but having kind of lived through a example of Mega Lunch, and I think maybe Deanne was kind of alluding to is, I'm just put a scenario. Parent comes in ready to pick up their child during this time period.
Mm-hmm.
How would you, as a central administration, know where each kid is? Like, I need to go get this kid.
Right.
Where everybody's at, I guess we're saying.
Yeah, initially that's going to be a challenge, but as we do now, we use a loudspeaker. We use the intercom system to say, student, you're so-and-so, will you please report to the front office? Okay. Because if we have like 600, 700 people in the cafeteria, we have to do the same thing already. Okay. So we'll do that, and obviously we'll have, with the number of staff members that we have around the building, and one of the benefits of this that I failed to mention is we feel like we're going to build some relationships with kids.
Yes.
And teachers are going to be around the building and see students that they don't see on a normal basis. They're going to get to know them. And then we can use that system as well to say, because we'll have principals around the building and say, have you seen this student? And we can go out and get them.
The other question I have is, a lot of times as far as remediation, student A needs remediation in English, let's just use history, multiple subjects. So as far as priority, I need student A drafted for my remediation, but so is the teacher. How do you prioritize? I'm just, because I know that's
So
been
if
an
two
issue.
teachers are needing them?
Yeah, multiple, yes.
Yeah. So we just have to look at the unique situation. Obviously, there could be, depending on the urgency of it. Let's say, because that could vary quite frankly. If we're in September and the student's got to finish an assignment or got to finish a project so we give 3-week assessments. Let me start over. Okay, so we give 3-week assessments. And so off those assessments, our teachers are looking at the data and they're identifying students that are struggling on that unit. And so the idea is that you want to pull those students in and intervene before it gets any further down the road. Because if you wait until 6 weeks, it's too hard to catch them up. So you want to do that often. And so obviously that would have the priority. As we get closer to STAR, that's going to increase in priority.
I mean, I'm just kind of, I'm not trying to poke holes. I'm just trying to, kind of look at all these different kind of scenarios just because I've lived through it.
Sure. Those are all things we must
consider. It's like, as far as like, do teacher A get to see the student Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and the other teacher get Tuesday, Thursdays, or how the drafting process as far as the students. And then the other question is, okay, I'm student A, I drafted these 10 students. I don't see them coming in, student A and B. So how do I get a hold of administration? I'm looking for student A and B. They're not here. They need remediation. And how quick, how would y'all respond and how?
So we'll, obviously they let the administration know. They can call the office. The office can radio us, let us know that they're looking for the student. We can start that. If we don't get them right then, of course, you're only looking at 30 minutes.
Right.
So we may not get them there before that remediation's over. But then we'll talk to that student, pull that student in, have a conversation with him. This is important. And then if we have to, quite frankly, if we do this after 4th period, we can go to 4th period and we can take those students and pick them up, have our security guards pick them up and take them to the classroom where they belong.
And the other question is, are you going to be able you require your teachers to keep like attendance logs, even for the clubs? Like, okay, I had these students during this period.
We'll have sign-in sheets.
Okay.
And then we're actually looking to, and I know very little about it, but we are, Mr. Loudermilk's actually presenting to us tomorrow about some software that helps you when you're drafting students and getting those students, and it builds you a schedule.
Okay. Well, on top of that, just kind of revisit, kind of look at as far as priority, because I know that was an issue on my campus. It's like, well, the English teacher's always getting first dibs because of the start there. And there's kind of a little, competitiveness between the teachers as far as trying to get a student. But anyway, and the other thing is, I applaud as far as the list, and I know I saw the SAT prep, saw the organization, and know you stressed on remediation. But I also think too is, let's not forget about some of the kids that may not need remediation, and think about some ways we can do enrichment activities as well. And I know you had some, with regards to that. But
and that's what I meant by when I said attend intervention and extension. Extension for those. So we operate under the 4 questions of a PLC. Those questions. And the last 2 are, what are we going to do when students don't get it, and what are we going to do when students already know it?
Yeah.
And so that's extension. And so we'll have opportunities for that, where maybe those students could come in and tutor other students. That actually helps their learning some too. So we can be creative there, but we are going to try to provide opportunities for those students to extend their learning as well.
And my last question is, and as you said, you spoke with, Clear Falls, Clear Lake, and Dobie. Was an overarching theme as far as what made it a success? I guess, what was the common denominator that you saw on all 3 campuses what made it work?
Once it got going, is what made it work. Number 1 was the teacher buy-in initially, but also student buy-in, and that students appreciated the opportunities they had. One of the things that they said was, especially for your kids that are AP kids, to have a brain break, to actually have an opportunity, because when you're taking 4 AP classes, I'm going to tell you right now, I couldn't do that. But that's a challenging situation for a student, and just to have some time. But when students appreciate it, students really appreciated that time to go to where they needed to go, and to have some choice and to have some freedom. I think that helped a lot. But teacher buy-in, by and large, they told us it's made or broken with teacher buy-in and teachers being where they're supposed to be.
Okay.
And I feel really good about it. I was shocked when I saw the numbers. I was really pleased with how our teachers felt like this would be a great opportunity for them. And if you wanted to hear from them, I had them to be ready if y'all wanted to talk to them individually.
I want to echo Deanne's thoughts, but I want to say a personal thank you to them for pushing you to do it, because regardless, I mean, we're doing something outside of the box.
Yes.
And my prayers that it's successful, but if not, I mean, you're going to learn from it, we'll adapt and do something different, right? So
Yeah.
this is awesome, and I wish we had it when I was a kid.
Well, and
Juliana wouldn't leave me alone for several weeks. She wouldn't leave me alone. So.
we asked Mr. Gramber to come and share this with you today because it's going to be a change, and you're going to hear from parents. And so we wanted to make certain that he shared that with you, what it all entails, because, you know, it's going to be a great idea. It's going to be awesome. But going through the change, you're going to hear from folks, and you're going to need to help support us in saying, here's the ultimate goal of all of this. And so thank you for that
Did we
today.
hear from parents already?
Right, but not for this one.
Just another thing.
Yeah,
Good luck.
I'm in favor of it.
Well, I appreciate y'all, and thank you so much for your
Yes.
support. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gramber.
You bet.
Thank you.
We'll go to item 8, consent agenda. A, determine and approve any consent agenda items. B, approve board meeting minutes. Number 1, regular board meeting minutes, May 11, 2021. B2, special board meeting minutes, June 9, 2021. C, receive principals' reports. Number 1, Early Childhood Center. 2, Bayshore Elementary. 3, College Park Elementary. 4, Heritage Elementary. 5, Jenny Reed Elementary. 6, LaPorte Elementary. 7, Leo A. Rizzuto Elementary. 8, Lomax Elementary. Number 9, James H. Baker 6th grade campus. 10, LaPorte Junior High. 11, Lomax Junior High. 12, LaPorte High School. 13, Villa DeWalt High School. D, receive financial reports for May 2021. E, receive human resources report. F, receive TASB local policy update 117 affecting local policies CH local, CHE local, CV local, and DEC local. G, receive 2020-2021 School Health Advisory Council SHAC annual report. H, notice of employment of professional staff. I, approve budget amendment. J, approve 2021 to 2022 purchases and encumbrances over $50,000. K, approve 2021-2022 Harris County Community Youth Services interlocal contract. L, approve 2021-2022 Harris County Department of Education HCDE Academic and Behavioral Schools ABS East interlocal contract. M, approve 2021-2022 Harris County Department of Education HCDE High Point School East interlocal contract. N, approve memorandum of understanding for Harris County Department of Education's HCDE Area 1 Head Start program. O, approve memorandum of understanding for the Juvenile Justice Alternative Education Program, JJAEP. P, approve beginning a new 3-year plan / year 1 for workers' compensation coverage. Q, approve partnership agreement for communities and schools model / traditional programs and crisis intervention program. R, approve proposals for special education non-public school placement services. S, approve regular school board meeting schedule for the first semester. T, adopt a resolution number 2021-10 for annual review of investment policies and investment strategies. A resolution number 2021-11 for investment officers and a list of authorized brokers / dealers. U, adopt the resolution number 2021-12 for investment training providers. V, adopt the resolution number 2021-13 regarding federal funds allocated to LaPorte ISD for school year 2021-2022. Ms. Thompson, you mind reading back the consent agenda?
Well, since no one pulled anything, it is B, 1 and 2, C, 1 through 13, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, all, no, don't say that, all from item number 8 on our agenda.
Okay, seek a motion.
So moved.
Ms. Green,
Second.
second
Go
by
ahead,
Mr.
Russell.
Shopping.
Yeah.
And so we'll call for the vote. And Ms. Wheeler, yea or nay? Yes, and so that is unanimous. Okay. Board, we're going to kind of move things out of order. We're going to go to item B to the compensation plan since it affects the budget. So we're going to move to item 9B first. Approve the 2021-2022 compensation plan. Yeah.
Okay. You want me to tell you anything about it, or you want to just ask questions?
I think, board, we can just go ahead and ask questions if y'all. Aye. Okay. Anybody else on the board? I do have some questions, but Ms. Thompson, you have?
Come on, Jeff.
I
Go
always
for
have
it.
questions, but I'm not sure what the right. So what is this not the raises? What is the, when you say compensation plan, what are you talking about?
This is,
specifically?
this.
Yeah, the stipends and
I don't-
Rates of pay and all
rates,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
think I have anything.
Here's my first question.
Okay.
I want to know, I know we talked about this a couple of years ago, and I want to make sure I understand our process in evaluating this. I think we do, like, every 3 years, like 1 year we look at stipends, 1 year we look at XYZ, 1 year we look at XYZ. I mean, what is our process for evaluating this to make sure we're staying competitive? I know y'all don't look at the whole entire thing every year.
Right. We don't necessarily have a schedule on what we look at things. We just kind of compare to other districts and things like that and see where we think we're low or where we're having trouble recruiting. A lot of times it comes in our recruiting efforts where we can see and then we start evaluating those kind of things.
Okay.
Our stipends, we just reviewed our athletic stipends this year. We hadn't done those in several years, and so we gathered information on those and we have raised some of those. Last year, as you recall, we did our LSSPs and some of our other special programs. Sometimes we have done a TASB salary survey to just see where we're competitive, but we pull that data all the time on an ongoing basis and look at it and see if we're competitive or not, and if we feel like we are, we just keep where we're at.
Okay.
Does that make sense? We're looking at this stuff all the time, and we're not necessarily picking something on a rotation. We're trying to be competitive all the time.
Okay. When was the last time that we adjusted the base salary for paraprofessionals? I know this was a discussion last year.
Yeah, I can't answer that question off the top of my head. We did it not that many years ago, but.
I want to say it was 3, and it wasn't just the paras.
Right.
It was in a
Yeah.
group, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was
Right.
support staff,
Okay.
and I want to say 3, because it was fairly recently.
Yeah, and I can go back and get that information, but off the top of my head, I don't remember. Yeah, we raised up the starting rates a lot because they were like,
Yeah.
especially the manual trades, they were a lot closer to minimum than they are now. And we've even moved up like cafeteria managers, cafeteria workers, custodians. They used to be on pay grade 1, they've moved up to pay grade 2. So, you know, we make a lot of changes from year to year, but I can't remember
Okay.
exactly what they are or when they happened.
So I'll admit this is a self-interest question, but I get it a lot as a Rotarian, why we don't have a stipend for an interact coach.
So we don't have a stipend for most of our clubs. I don't even know that we have a stipend for any of our clubs. We have it for all of the UIL type things. So our academic UIL, our coaches, those are the kind of things we have stipends
It's
for.
like ABLA is a UIL, so anything that's
Yeah.
UIL. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Also ROTC, we have stipends for ROTC. They go out to orienteering and There's two different things they do, but they're basically competitions.
Ms. Cumby, I already kind of addressed about the bus drivers. I mean, I don't have no problem approving the compensation plan, but I'd like to go back and seeing about doing starting pay for bus drivers at $20+ dollars. I have some other questions on the compensation plan. On page, really on the stipend portion, can you clarify for me on page 37? It says stipend amount for pay code 497 bilingual, $4,000.
Yes.
And then it says 462 ESL teacher dual language program, $2,000. Well, I mean, I don't know. I would think that would be the same, you know what I mean? Because it's multiple languages, you know.
The bilingual stipend is given to all of our bilingual teachers that offer bilingual support. I believe the ESL are for the English ones in the dual language class.
Oh, it
right?
is?
They're not? I don't even, Jewel. I'm not even sure who gets the ESL.
Our ESL stipends go to all teachers, pre-K all the way through 12th grade, who service English language learners. So it's not necessarily that they have a different language that they're teaching. They are teaching English instruction to students whose home language would be, you know, from another, it could be Chinese, it could be Spanish, etc.
Right, and I saw that on the other,
But that's the
this is
ESL
dual
stipend,
language
that's
though.
not.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, the 2,000 is just a 50% bilingual. So that would be somebody that's only doing bilingual 50% of the time. It could be an assessment person or something like that.
Because they're doing the other
So,
half
yeah.
English.
No, our
Okay.
ESL stipend's
Gotcha.
only $500, so I was going like,
I didn't have that in
I
front of me,
don't know that we have that stipend, but we don't. That's what it is. I'm sorry.
And correct me if my memory serves me, but I know in the previous year's compensation plan, we had an early exit. And I noticed I didn't see that in this one, so are
Correct.
we getting?
I can answer that.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've discontinued that for this year because we didn't see the need for it anymore. We didn't get the value of the bang for the buck. And so I made an executive decision to do that, and I apologize for not letting the board know that.
No, that's fine. This is just, on page 38, this is just a comment, okay? On the planetarium operator, I know the stipend says 1,000, but I really liked what we did pre-COVID, and I know that may be coming back post-COVID, or I guess not really post-COVID, but in where we're living in now, we're opening up things. Hopefully seeing some of the, opening up the planetarium to the public during the summer, and I know that's probably going to be more of after hours pay or, non-working days pay as far as compared to a stipend per se, but that's just a comment.
Yeah, we'd rather keep the stipend where it is.
Yeah.
If we do something different, we pay for that.
Okay, and I have one last question on page 39. Summer school teacher, $32 an hour. Summer school credit recovery, $24 an hour, but I'm assuming that's also a teacher as well?
Correct. So you want to know the difference?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So a summer school teacher has to do prep, they have to do planning, they have to do those kind of things. Credit recovery teacher is just there to monitor the kids while they're doing their credit recovery.
Okay.
And so our professional rate is $24 an hour, so that's what we're giving that teacher. But if they're actually teaching summer school, they're doing prep, they're doing planning, they're teaching the kids. Credit recovery, they're not really teaching them, they're working individually.
All right, the reason why I say that, because I did that in a neighboring school district, and they're paying $30 an hour, so I know we're kind of low on that.
For all extra duty or just?
No, for the summer school
summer
credit recovery is $30 an hour, and we have it at 24. So as far as maybe looking at that, and that maybe having to adjust the summer school teacher pay, but you might want to look as far as comparative purposes that we're not, but and then extra duty professional at $24. What does that encompass?
That would accomplish tutorials, any extra duty that they do, after-school duty,
So teachers per se, if they're doing tutoring after
during the
school?
school year, yeah,
During the school year.
outside their normal schedule.
Okay, because I'm comparatively, I've seen that at the teachers in other districts, 28 to $30 an hour. So if we're doing 24,
We
you
can
know,
just do a
look at
step.
that.
Yeah,
Heavy
and
on
we
that.
definitely can, because that has not been
Okay.
changed in quite a while.
Okay.
So we definitely can go do that.
And you know me, I'll say a couple questions, but it ends up being 5 or 6. But I have one here on my top page I just want to say too. I know in the last conversation we had on June 9th, I mentioned about each campus. I know they do maybe have some energetic person that does the campus's website or something like that. And we get some energetic person that ends up doing that. But then I hear that they're just pretty much volunteering to do it. I like to see them get compensated as far as maybe, and I've seen it in other districts, compensation plans, as far as having a webmaster / social media, which I have my own thoughts about going beyond, you know, but I'm going to leave that
campus, you're saying?
Yes, per campus, and having a stipend for that, for webmaster / social media. And those things range, you know, from different districts between $250, $500 up to $1,000. So
We'll
research that, you know.
We'll see what our
I'll-
neighbors are doing.
Yeah,
And then we'll
like to see that included as well in the compensation plan. And that's all I have. Thank
See
you.
that, and I love that it looks like we have like 6 different stipends for special education, which I think that's a great thing, awesome thing. I've heard, I guess my short time on the board though, several things about we want to address mental health, and my question is, are there counselors, I would assume it'd be a fall into the counselor's realm, and maybe I'm off base on that. But is there anything we can do to offer a stipend, either whether it be for training or whatnot, to incentivize our counselors to go get training or certified in mental health resourceability?
Crisis type things.
Or,
I have actually provided this year 5 sessions for our counselors, and it is directly mental health, and it's actually being provided by Clear Hope Counseling. And they will be certified when they're finished with, we have 2 more sessions, they'll be certified. And then we're going to continue to extend that for them with the ESSER funds.
well, what's the counselors? I know there's different levels, and not just counselors, but other areas that like you can be licensed professional counselors. An incentive for any of these counselors or administrators or whoever to go and get additional certifications outside the realm of like special education.
I'll answer that. Generally, and I'm speaking in general, if a counselor is seeking their LPC, I'm not saying that they are not going to choose to stay with us, but generally speaking, many of them will go out into private practice for that. That's the purpose for them to get the LPC. So I don't, you know, maybe I am speaking out of turn. I don't know that we want to incentivize people to leave us.
This is an example of like one of the licenses, right? Like, are there other ones, but maybe specifically related to mental health?
We'd have to investigate it. I don't know any offhand. Do you, Cindy?
So we,
Sorry, I got a question.
the licensed social workers, they have to have a supervisor, and that costs them. And we are, this next year, going to be providing that because they're going to be an employee with us. And one of our other LPCs can supervise them. So it's kind of like an SLP, a speech language pathologist assistant, gets supervised by the speech language pathologist. So we are trying to do more of that, where they would have to, it would be a couple $100 a session out of their own pocket, but we can provide that.
Interesting. I got a question. Okay, where's Corey? Corey, I know we talk a lot about maintenance and trying to get on a better maintenance schedule and trimming trees and this and that and whatever. I just want to make sure, have we given you the leadway to make sure we have enough ground maintenance people and equipment?
Yes, there's 2 more, and the equipment comes out of bond. So yes,
We've got 2 more coming.
2 coming out July 1, and that would be 4 this year.
2 more employees, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
They're added, they're on the executive summary.
And
Okay.
in terms of the compensation, as far as the pay per hour, are we being competitive?
We are with Deer Park, Clear Creek. Deer Park does most of their stuff is contracted. They have some athletics,
And Goose Creek, I can't remember, but I've spoken to them. I think some of that is also contracting. So we're doing 100% in-house. So I think we're right at about the spot where we need to be at that level.
So are there designated people that are ground maintenance athletics? I see
Yes.
they're a different, they're like a different
Yes.
pay grade. Okay.
Yes. So we have one that's over all of our athletic grounds.
Uh-huh.
He's here at the high school. We also have an assistant for him
Uh-huh.
that's with him. And then we have one that's on this side of town that does all common areas.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure you have enough people.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, one more, and then I'm done, Rhonda. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Okay. I know our SROs we have through a contract with the city. But for our police that we hire for security, traffic control, playoff games, et cetera, what are their rates of pay, and have we looked at increasing them lately? When was the last time we increased them, et cetera?
They're not part of our compensation plan. We
Right.
contract with them through the city. I think Matt helps us get them. And I think the rates are set from the Port Police Officers Association. Is that right?
Not for us. No,
Not for
just
you.
for city jobs.
Oh, okay. We pay them $30 an hour to like big games and things like that, and it's $40 an hour if they're doing a playoff game. And that is paid directly to the officer. It is not paid through payroll or anything like that. It's paid through accounts payable.
Do we know, have we done a study or anything? Do we know if we're in sync with what the other districts are doing when they have that?
No, we haven't done a study. What's
Matt,
your
do y'all
thoughts
have
on
some
the
data?
pay for it?
Yeah. So Matt, would you all have data that says, we're comparable to what other school districts are doing?
Yes, sir. We actually did a market survey we did Pasadena, Goose Creek, Deer Park, us, market survey that I sent on the 12th, March the 12th is when I sent the data, just to see what the rates were, because it's school specific, because we don't get into other jobs like bank jobs and whatever. We're just trying to find districts that only for school security purposes. And so we're a little behind on those rates because some of those districts, it's kind of not comparable because some of them pay overtime rates instead of a flat fee. So that data is available.
Can you get that to me?
Absolutely. Yeah.
At $30 an hour, I'm surprised you can get people to.
Well, and that's the problem we run into. Normally, the SROs cover all the extra duty jobs. What happens is when you have football games, we have to have 10 or more officers, or we have so many events going on that we don't have the resources, we have to go outside. Nobody wants to work because they're going to go work a step job that pays overtime rates, or they're going to go work other jobs that the police association has that's paying way more than what we are.
40
But
to 50.
that's where the issue comes in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you said 40 for playoff, okay, so if the UIL uses Bulldog Center for a playoff game, the security is included in that. So that's really a wash, like we're not really losing money. I mean,
We're not actually paying those fees, the districts that are using the rental. So they pay a fee for rental, and then all the expenses associated with that rental, including security, officials, because we pay officials as well.
Sure.
All those kind of things are paid out of the gate, and then they get what's left of the gate, split between the school districts, two schools that are paying after all those expenses.
So that should be a wash for us anyway,
Right,
whatever
it's
that
no
rate
cost
is.
to us.
Yeah.
Playoff games are no cost to us.
Okay. So really the rate that is most,
Cost to us is $30, correct.
and that's where you're saying we're behind. Okay. All right.
How far behind?
Anywhere from 5 to 10, just depends on what district it is.
That's where
Yeah.
it's at.
Yeah, because I think right now our police association, I think minimum is 40. But, I mean, we do a market analysis on our contract for our salaries too, as well, so that's kind of, I try to use that same concept.
Yeah,
For
we
data.
need to bring it up.
So, yeah, but I'll get it to y'all.
Okay.
Go ahead. Anything else?
Thank you, Officer Novosad, Sergeant Novosad.
Okay, any questions, board? Okay, I'd like for someone to make a motion to approve with the suggested possible looking into as far as possible little bit of changes of things we've discussed during this compensation. Y'all, this didn't end up, thank you, so awesome.
So moved.
Okay,
I make a motion that we approve the compensation plan with possible adjustments that have been discussed this evening, I guess that would
And
be.
we can bring those back in August.
Would that be the best way to word that, Lisa?
So long as, Rhonda, did you make note of, is that the official note of all the adjustments that were discussed?
Right, so what I recommend, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we adopt this and we move forward with this, and then in August, we bring back the recommendations for you to adjust the compensation plan. Would that be the best way?
That would not affect the compensation of anyone who's on a contract, would it? It would be?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, none of these are contracted people.
No.
Okay, so let me change my motion then. I make a motion that we approve the compensation plan as submitted and to revisit it at a later date. How about that?
okay. Ms. Thompson made a motion, Mr. Murdock seconded. We'll call for the vote. Ms. Wheeler, your yea or nay? Ms. Wheeler?
You still there?
Can you?
She said, last call again, vote yes for me.
Okay.
I think she thinks she's texting you.
Uh-oh.
But no, because she knows she can't, because I.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So she said yes.
Okay, so it is unanimous, thank you. Okay, we go to, back to item A, adopt the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget.
So moved.
Don't we need to state as far as the raise, what we're,
Well, I thought if we included it in the compensation plan,
You adopted the
We have-
plan as presented.
it was as presented, compensation,
Yeah,
the budget would be,
compensation plan doesn't
include the raises,
address the raise.
yeah.
It just
Okay.
addresses the compensation.
so can we do it by making the same addendum, or can we not vote for the budget?
You can vote for the budget, we just need direction of what to do for the raises.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, I was really in favor of.
Make a motion.
Of the 3% and the tier structure, but in talking this out and after hearing Dr. Wiley speak of it, it's reminding me again of this year being the most difficult we've had in recent memory, right? These teachers having to teach from home, teach online, they have kids of their own. I mean, if this is the year that we can, it's not gonna physically hurt our district, I'm definitely in favor of the 4%.
And,
With the caveat that it's based on their actual salary.
yeah.
So that would be my motion, is that we look at proposing,
For everyone?
4% for all employees,
Correct.
based on their current salary.
assuming you're telling me that it's not going to, which is good.
It's doable.
That is doable, that is.
Doable for this year, and then we can take it on, you know,
For next year.
Yeah, we can't do 4% every year of everybody's salary.
No,
but-
ma'am.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But we can do it this year.
And I did calculate the cost for you. It's $2,677,308.
Okay.
It's actually a little less.
So
Okay.
did you make a motion?
Did you
I
make a
will
motion?
is
And
that
I'll
we-
second it.
Okay.
Could
Ms.
we add in the $400
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
to TRFs?
Thir-
To raise
Yeah.
that
For the
from
insurance, you mean?
$370
$30 a month? To,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, take it up to
Take
$400.
it up to 400? Would y'all be okay
I
with
thought we
amending?
kind
I
of
thought-
agreed
Yeah,
to
fine.
do
I
that,
thought that was
yeah.
Agreed upon already.
Well,
Well, I think it was agreed upon,
but
but it's not.
put it in the
agreed upon.
motion.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Well, Ms. Thompson kind of made an amendment. Would you accept the amendment?
Absolutely.
Ms. Green, would you
Yes.
accept the amendment?
Yes.
Okay. So we can
Can I
add
just say
that.
one thing? Are we blessed to be able to even talk about giving a raise? We are. And I
Yes.
just want to say that, no matter what the percent is, no matter what the
Even
breakdown
giving them
is.
50 million back.
I didn't want to think about that.
Which, by the way, is more than the instruction. It costs of 43 million,
Yeah.
but just make that point across too.
And it is a good point.
Okay. So we have a motion by Mr. Martin, seconded by Ms. Green, accepting the amendment from Ms. Thompson. So call for the vote. Ms. Wheeler, yea or nay?
Probably gonna text you on that.
Yeah.
Rhonda's checked the text.
Not again. She said last call again.
But ask her what is her vote.
It's saying she's on there, so I don't know what's wrong.
I know this is backwards, David, but it's 4% across the board based upon
Salary.
salary and the open it to $400 for the.
Yes, sir.
Do you want me to text?
Well, it passes anyway.
Yeah. So, well, 6-0, a no vote, I mean, not no vote, but a non-vote for Ms. Wheeler right now.
Yeah, she's still there.
Considering her comments that she sent you, I'm sure.
I know, but officially we can't.
I know, but
yeah.
I'm just saying, you
Yeah.
all know that she's.
Okay, so we're going to move on. Okay.
Okay, I texted her.
Hallelujah, praise the Lord.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
If it gives direction, we can reflect in the minutes that she supported it, maybe?
To reflect that maybe you wouldn't count it in the vote.
Count it and vote, yeah. Okay, that she was in support of it or something. Okay. We'll go to item C, consider the Porte ISD Distinguished Alumni/Citizen nominations.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Thompson made the motion to approve, seconded by Mr. Shoppy. Any questions, discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote. And then I'll just make as a courtesy, Ms. Wheeler, yea or nay? And she's not responsive, so we're going to 6-0 on that. Okay, D, approve agreement for the purchase of attendance credits.
So moved.
Ms. Green made the motion to approve.
So, second.
Seconded by Ms. Thompson. Any questions? If not, call for the vote. Yes for Ms. Wheeler on item D. And Ms. Wheeler, just to reflect in the minutes your support as far as items A and C. That was the budget and the Distinguished Alumni Citizens. Were you both in support of those? No. Yes, okay. So if the minutes could reflect that she was in support of that, even though it does not count in the actual vote. Thank you. Okay, item E, adopt a resolution number 2021-14, appoint a representative to the Board of Directors for Reinvestment Zone Number 1, City of LaPorte, Texas, the Zone Board, and exercise the district's unequivocal right pursuant to the governing interlocal agreement to appoint and maintain one member to the Zone Board. Let me just kind of clarify what this is about, because I asked for this to be on the agenda. Back in 2017, the board voted to change the membership on the TERS from the superintendent representing the school district to a board member. The board selected me in December of 2017 to be on the board. I thought it was a 3-year term, but it's actually a 2-year term, so it should have been, my fault, should have been brought up in 2019. But now that's kind of ending at 2021 because the resolution that approved, that had me appointed, there was no ending. It was just kept on going. There was, so I wanted to get, perpetuity. So I wanted to give this board, until I'm off the board, the board this opportunity to go in a different direction, selecting another board member if someone's willing and interested. So I am open to any suggestions whatsoever. So
I just say we nominate you to do it again.
well, if anybody else is interested.
I don't have time.
All right. Okay, I got a motion from Ms. Green, second from Mr. Shoppy. Call for the vote.
Ta-da.
Okay. And yes, okay, well, we got, okay.
David, when you get a chance, sit down with me and talk to me about what all that entails. and
Okay.
everything, so you don't
Right.
get hammered every time.
Sure, that's okay. Okay, will do. Okay, 9F, consider designating a delegate and alternate to represent LaPorte ISD at the 2021 Texas Association of School Boards TASB Delegate Assembly scheduled for September 25th, 2021. For our new board members, this is what we normally do when we have the convention in September. There's a assembly where we pick 2 trustees to represent the school district, and they get to vote on different matters. It's a scheduled portion of the convention, which I believe is in Dallas this year, I think. So, and if anybody be interested, it's a great, I did it once before. It's a great experience.
It's very interesting. I've done it twice, but it's really interesting to see what other districts and what they're basically doing is trying to come up with what are going to be the the items that we want TASB to focus on. What are, yes, what's their priorities? Thank you, I couldn't get the word. So you're kind of the voice of our district, but you would have the opportunity to speak to people from other districts in this big room.
And actually, this.
So it's what you make it or you don't make it,
And
really.
but this particular part of it is really on putting it's more people election. I mean, they're going to talk about it's not the advocacy approval for what they want to talk about to the legislature.
Oh, this isn't
No, it's more the people that are running for the positions and, how we're voting. And then they'll throw a couple of other little things in there. But you are right, the other is the LAC for the Legislative Action Committee, and there's not a vote taken for that.
Maybe I've done both of those.
So-
Maybe I'm combining both those memories.
But anyway, and just, I'm not saying this to joke around, but traditionally, we try to send new members because it helps them kind of understand what's going on. They do not get punked.
I'll be happy to go.
Okay, that's great. Great, we'll nominate, that's great. And so, okay, y'all quit looking at the desk. You need an alternate.
Sure.
Oh,
Well,
Chris
Russell
says
said
sure.
he'd do it.
Oh, Chris said sure, go ahead.
It's a
Or
one-man
if they both
show.
want to go, that's fine.
You already
No,
said.
it's, we're there for 2 nights usually.
Well, and it's instead of a session. If you don't do, it's like going to a session.
Yeah.
So if you don't do that, you're going to go to another session. So you might as well go to this and meet
Do
with
something a
them.
little different and meet
Yeah.
some people from other districts.
So,
What are you looking at me for?
And you do
Because
get
you were
you do
staring
get a
at
lunch
me.
out of it. You go to lunch.
Yes,
with
they
them, so.
feed you lunch while you're there.
yeah.
Oh, then I'll do it.
Okay.
All right, fat guy.
I'll do it.
Okay, well, we need to just put in the motion. Who wants to?
I'll move that we nominate Jeff as the delegate and Russell as the alternate.
Okay, so we have a motion by Ms. Green. Need a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Murdoch. And so call for the vote. Ms. Wheeler?
Yes. Oh, look at this.
Ms. Wheeler said yes, so it's unanimous. Okay, thank you. We go to item G, consider nominating a candidate for a position on the TASB Board of Directors representing Region 4, position B. This was a position held by Paige Rander, who served on the Clear Creek ISD Board. She lost her election in May, and so there is a vacancy for that position. So we have an opportunity as a board to pick a candidate for that position. So anybody has any suggestions or?
I don't know the names, but in my executive board meeting at Region 4 the other day, they've got 2 and maybe 3 candidates already, not to discourage anybody, but just so you know.
You don't know who they are, though?
They didn't give me the names, so I don't know who they are. And, so if anybody wants to do it,
I think we have an opportunity as a board to, I think if those names are submitted later, to actually put in and vote on one of those as a
they've
support.
gotten to where the ones that are serious about it usually will come and show up to our meeting in August.
Yeah.
Because that will be their only opportunity to
Okay.
meet us. But if somebody wants to do it.
Yeah, if
that's-
anybody on this board wants to put their name in the hat for that, that's a,
No, sir.
okay. Anybody? Okay, so we'll take no action on that one. So, number 10, action on closed session items. We don't have anything to act upon on that one. So, item 11, we adjourn at 9:03 p.m.